Welcome back to the Dynasty Grind. No, wait. Yeah, this is Dynasty Grind, right? I forget where I am. My name's Peter Howard at PA Howdy on Twitter, though. Every Wednesday at 9:30, we go live for about 3 hours to answer any Dynasty questions or complaints or speculations that you might have about the game of fantasy football in a Dynasty format. Any questions that you have, drop in a little comment box on whatever streaming platform you happen to be listening on. Zach Reed from the Dynasty Dummies won't be able to make it this week, but we still do have me, so it's fine. And also Russ, which I guess is okay. I guess that's okay as well. It's not worse for having Russ. Let's put it that way. I'm kidding, obviously. Anyway, happy to be here. Happy to see you all again. And yeah, let's talk about some Dynasty, eh? Russ, how is it going, my man?
There. Now it's better.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah. Yeah, they changed the number on you. I think that's purely an affront to you, to be honest with you.
It really is. I feel so like... like... And that's not even including the stuff that's over there. Like...
Won't that make them more collectible, though, or something? Isn't that the way collectible things work?
The world doesn't work like that anymore. And I mean, like, at least I can't be super sad about my Calvin Ridley jersey, because at least he changed teams. It's not like he just changed numbers. I hate the 0 thing, by the way. Like, and I 100%, I am old man yelling at the clouds, get off my lawn, all of that stuff. I like looking at a player's jersey and you're like, that guy's a wide receiver. Instead, we have Micah Parsons wearing number 11. I'm like, why is that wide receiver tackling the quarterback? It's just, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it.
I gotta admit, I must be the only man, woman, or child in my little sphere that doesn't care about the numbers on the jerseys. Maybe it's because I don't watch, so I don't even.
You don't watch football, like, and I get it. Like, he wore number 5 in college, so it's probably very cool for him to be able to wear number 5.
Are you not happy that he is happy? Surely that's.
I really, really am, and don't get me wrong. There's going to be something over here at some point, you know, with just number 5 on it.
Well, we can finally fill up the rest of your wall space. That's what I'm learning. Yeah, you know, you got to have the 85 and the 5 next to each other.
And and it's, I mean, I got my Ridley over here. I'm going to have another Ridley over there, and I'm going to have to wait until there's enough cards with him in a Jaguars jersey to be able to fill that over there also. I still... the oldest... It's funny, like, I have 4 signed jerseys. The only one who's on the same team and the same number is the oldest guy, Keenan Allen. I have Allen Robinson from the Bears. It's not even a Jaguars jersey, like, it's a Bears jersey. Mm-hmm. Ridley, Keenan, and Higgins.
Sorry, I was getting, I fired up Discord because I realized I hadn't been on it in 5 minutes, and I'd got 3 messages from Patreon saying that they like the new, I released a new kind of Dynasty Crossroads episode today, and they liked it, and that made me smile. But I heard everything you said, obviously. Jerseys and football and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, man, I don't get a lot of good feedback, so I'll take it. My Patreon's awesome.
I'm so behind. I just finished recently your episode with Zach. Oh man, he had. I'm very, very happy. I work from home anyway, so I'm glad I wasn't in a crowded area. He said something like, people ask me what I would do if I'm on the clock and it's JSN and Gibbs are on the board. He says, well, I always break ties to running backs, so I'm drafting JSN.
I caught that after he said it. I carried on, and then mid-sentence, I was like, don't laugh, you'll sound like a crazy man. I caught it after he said it, and I was like, man,
like, if there were a drink in my mouth, it would have been everywhere. If I was in public, people would have been laughing at me like I was a crazy person. But I was in my car, in my garage, thankfully, just like, but like, I was not ready for it, and I mean,
that damn subtle sense of humor he's got made you feel like
it's almost like his name is Tacit Assassin for a reason. Like,
I know, right?
It's almost like
I know. It's weird. No, I spend that. We should probably talk to people in the chat, but I'm enjoying this personally.
It's not you and me very often. We always have that other guy here
right,
that takes up.
So right?
All he does is talk.
So demanding.
So like we get some bus time. That's what I'm here for. Like the good old days. Remember we did this just the two of us for a while.
I spent the day trying to get my article for this week ready, and then realized that last week I promised to do wide receiver, not tight end. Now, no one reads it, so no one will care, but to me, continuity matters, and so I'm going to have to redo all of that's the other thing that went on today. So,
Oh, yeah.
It's actually a pretty lit article. I thought it was just an easy-to-do exercise that I generally look at anyway, but it's actually really interesting once you filter down to the top 100 ADP picks to see who the Superflex rankers are doing, who they're doing differently. Now, know, when you do ranks, you're not always thinking about the draft, but that in itself, to compare it directly to the draft and say, hey, guys, you're taking 50 wide receivers. If you're ranking a draft, you're taking 50 wide receivers by like an insane round. We're like 48%. We're drafting wide receivers at like a 48% of all picks taken if it was a draft in our ranks. And ADP are doing it at like 25 to 30%. No, it's like insanely high compared to ADP. And like, it's really interesting to compare it. Well,
I'm just saying, like, wide receivers and quarterbacks, unless like
50
Kelsey
wide receivers by round 10
in a good spot. Like, I'm not drafting a running back in the first bunch of rounds. Like, we're
doubling wide receiver picks in the first 2 rounds. We're taking twice the wide receivers as ADP.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's gross. As opposed to me, I got a DM on Slack today. He's like, "Hey, Russ, I didn't get your trading post article." Oh, sorry, man. I got really busy with work. I'll get it to you in a few minutes. I'll get it to you soon. And I wrote an article in like 25 minutes. I have no idea what I wrote.
See, I wish I could do that. See, I can write, and empty words come fairly quickly to me. You might notice, Dynasty Grind audience, I can fill time. No problem. I can even be entertaining just by insulting myself for a good 10 minutes. And I do that in podcasts all the time. But for articles, I've got to write it, and then I got to leave it alone for at least a day, come back and realize, oh, that's what everyone on Twitter is always complaining about. Like, I can't spell anything, and these sentences don't make sense. I have to fix this. Okay. I need to give it space, and I need to read it backwards, and I need to do a lot of stuff. Just to get it into shape that James Simpson can shout at me.
Than I do. I just write trading articles. So all I have to do is write 2 funny paragraphs, 1 paragraph about the player I want to talk about, and then find trades and talk about the trades. It really just does not take a lot of time. And also, you look back, I literally, ever since my first article, I haven't even proofread or edited or read. I literally just finish it, download it, and send it. Because they're going to print of it what they want to print of it. If they don't like my jokes, they won't end up there. Like, they will do whatever the heck they want. So I'm just like, okay.
All right. Gary's been patiently waiting here since 9:30. Yeah, sorry, we were late to get Gary. That's my bad. I was just venting a little bit. You guys are moving up Abanikanda. I got it. In your rankings after his Monster Pro Day, he scored an unofficial RS score of 9.88. I tell you what, I was listening to the Dynasty Grind, they do it live before it comes out on a Dynasty Dummies. They record it live and then post it as a podcast, so you can actually get you can hear it before anyone else. I'm that guy. I'm the guy that's excited to watch the Dynasty Dummies earlier. Screw whatever common show you're all watching.
They need to do a better job.
I get the live show.
Telling people
the Dynasty Dummies. And because there's only ever like 7 of us there, and 3 of them are me and Jake somehow. So But one of the things Zach said in his intro was that someone had posted a stat that no tight end had ever been significant, basically without, or like what was it? Like 100% of tight ends that have been significant in fantasy have scored at least a 5 in RAS score. And I'm not throwing shade to that stat. I'm really happy I saw a stat rise up in this Dynasty Twitter space and then get taken on as like an official thing that's thrown around. It's pretty awesome. But 5 isn't that good. That's the thing that I find about combine metrics. If you just go to an average participant in the combine, then yeah, sure, 100% or above that. Like, it's not significant that you're over a 5. Like that doesn't dwindle the pool a lot. And the other thing he mentioned is like the highest scoring RAS scorer this year at the tight end position was Kuntz, who they proceeded to just smear with how terrible a prospect he was as a tight end. I'm like, you're not going to go back to the fact that maybe that score is a little like, if you can't rank by it and it doesn't sort it into a smaller pool, then what are we doing? I mean, it's good descriptive information. I love the stat. I love the people that make it. Math Bomb's great. Don't get me wrong. And it's just, it's frustrating to have the same argument every year, and it works the same way every time. And the few times that like Tyreek Hill happens, where all he had was athleticism as far as numbers go, everyone's like, see? I'm like, okay, that's what that was. It wasn't Andy Reid. It wasn't that he was actually gifted. He's not. You'll spend the rest of his career, even now, talking about how talented he is, but clearly it was just as athleticism. And Nico Collins, here we come, I guess, or Tony's going to take over. It's just so frustrating. But it is interesting. Anyway, back to Gary. No, I don't adjust for the combine at all.
We knew he was super fast. Had to do. It's not like we knew this. That's not new. Like
can confirm.
It's the same thing as combine scores. We're not double counting.
Yeah. The one thing I would say is that if I was doing a pre-draft big board, I'm doing a rookie draft today. It is interesting for signal in terms of how much the NFL is going to value him. They probably moved him up into we might take a fourth, fifth round pick on this guy, and then he gets hype, and then an injury happens, and he's certainly a capable producer at the conference that he was in. But I already know that, and his pro day and his athleticism score does mean the NFL will be more likely to try to fit him onto a depth chart somewhere. And so that's positive. But I don't adjust what I think of the range of outcomes or expectation. I actually used a thing called drafted rate, so which is how often players from that team have been drafted into the NFL in the first 3 rounds. And I find that gives me all the pre-draft boost I need. So I get to know the combine stuff because it is interesting. Like I want to know JSN doesn't want a 5 in the 40, for example. It's probably a little extreme. But then again, you've also got, was he injured? Was he not feeling well that day? But mostly I pay attention to it, but I don't adjust for it much at all. I can't even remember where I have him ranked, and Russ doesn't. But he's an interesting running back coming from a lower conference, if I remember right, who was much more of a rusher. Like essentially he didn't use his hands at all. And so that adjusts your expectation in fantasy as well. All of those things. But the pro day itself didn't do much for me, although good for him. I want to see these players drafted. I want to see them get a chance. So all of that is positive, and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah.
I suck at fantasy football. You always make me say that. That's a neat trick.
You do say
12 team PPR, 1 QB, start 9, 0.5 tight end premium. Offer to give up the 104 to get Derrick Henry in the 207. Should I do it? No.
Nope.
Not even close, especially in a super flex. Running backs are interesting buys this offseason, Derrick Henry especially, but only because he's not valued any near that.
You're not supposed to have to pay that.
Yeah. Like, where was it Zach drafted him in that draft you were all talking about? Like, double-digit
Oh, man. Old running backs fell so far.
And to be clear, I suck at fantasy football. The other thing to note here is, would you trade, like, Trevor Lawrence? It's probably the upside of a quarterback pick in this draft for Derrick Henry in a super flex. That's kind of why you can value the 1.4. Not Trevor Lawrence, but that potential of being Trevor Lawrence. And in super flex, it's just a no-go. Because even if you don't want to take a quarterback, you can trade back and get your favorite wide receiver 2 or running back 2. And we have higher expectations for them than long-term in Dynasty in terms of value, at least, than Derrick Henry. So even on a win now team, I think you should be able to find a better trade, or you're making the pick.
Yeah.
What were you saying though? I was trying to give you time to look it up.
No, I have them fast typing fingers. The 902 right before the 201 was drafted, and right after I traded up ahead of Zach so I could draft Juju Smith-Schuster right after him going to the Patriots.
Now, what I would say is they're asking for a second as well, or the balancing. There seems to be a high value on running backs in your league. Just guessing, you know that better than me. And that's fine. Honestly, if a league is structured that way, that just tells you something about how to play. And I was talking about this last week when I wrote up ranks versus value last week. The running backs, ADP and DLF drafters are suggesting we go target. If you want a running back, and I'm telling you not to do this, which running back? Breece Hall's always a good shot. He's probably the main one. Otherwise, trade up to the 101 from the 104. More than possible in a lot of leagues without adding too crazy a value right now, depending on the trade offer you get. I recently traded for Aaron Jones. He's going for a song in most leagues. And Nick Chubb. And there are some older running backs that are going at a more consistently going at a discount. Sorry.
I just said it's a running back and it's March. Mode. It's not something you need to worry about now. Like, you go out and you acquire Derrick Henry in March only because he's supposed to be cheap now. The 104, even in a one quarterback, is not cheap.
I would say, that's ultimately the truth. I would say it's interesting to explore this offseason because running backs are the lowest value ever, and no one's trading running backs in March. No one. Especially when we say things like trade Kenneth Walker, and everyone on the Dynasty Grind comes in and says, no one's buying. And we're like, okay, then you don't. But according to ranks and DLF, you should explore the idea. And if it's not, then it's fine. Of someone like Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, Kenneth Walker is actually higher ranked than he is drafted right now by 3 positional ranks, just about half a round. Jonathan Taylor. Those are the ones that we're mostly targeting. Or, wait, Isaiah Pacheco is really interesting if you want to take a flyer on him surviving the draft well.
He's a guy I take a lot
for almost nothing. Like, he's a second-round pick is extravagant for a trade-off. According to ranks and DLF, in your league, the guy rostering or girl rostering them might be like, no, which is fine. And that's a whole disconnect between what everyone says and what happens in your league. They just give you ideas of things to go see. And then if your league mates are like, no, then you're like, okay, that's fine. Oh, that's the way I try and play it anyway. Sorry, got stuck on that question. That's a nice game card.
The question look at that game card. Zach asked what the SNES game on my wall was. It's not a game. It's 3D printed, but it's The Adventures of Batman and Robin, signed by Kevin Conroy, who was the voice of Batman in Batman the Animated Series.
SNES. 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 Come on. Even I know that. 12 team, 1 QB. Interesting.
I am insanely impressed I got that up there on the first try, by the way.
I was too. I was sitting here. I wasn't going to say it, but I was thinking it.
I was going to play it cool, but I was too impressed. I had to do it. Yeah.
Right. I traded the 105 and the 107 in the 2023 draft. Yeah. For Chris Olave. Too much?
No.
In 1 QB, trade. I'd say that's pretty good, actually. I don't mind that for the other team, actually, because they're trading for the players they want. But
Josh
Downs, that's a really good trade.
You did great.
No, Downs right now is going to be a late second round pick at best. That's
okay.
How people
allow me to.
It depends what mock you're looking at. Yeah. No, I was saying it because that's like I would really be interesting in Downs that low.
Like, I don't know why you kept
same with Tank Bigsby.
Stop talking about him, not because he did anything wrong.
Yeah, and because he's small
for no
reason. That's his entire class.
That's why we just we need the draft. Like I rambled for like way too long at the beginning of Trade Addicts last night, just being like, "Look, I'm ready. I'm ready for the draft. The combine was fun.
Moving.
Like we did all of this, whatever. Let's move on. Let's go. I'm ready. We need to do.
I actually could use a little extra time. I haven't ranked tight end yet, and I haven't ranked or even pretended to rank.
The real trick is
just
I could use to do rankings.
I could use one. That would be a neat trick. Sorry, and hey guys, why are you sorry? Good. Hope all is well. I'm glad to hang out tonight. Same to you, man. Thanks very much. And S. In Superflex 10 team, I have the 105. If Gibbs and JSN left, and let's say one of the QBs slips or Levis is left, what's the thought process? Good question. I would say the reason I don't make a big board or answer these very strictly before the draft is because I don't have to. If you do, then it's an exercise worth going through. But don't decide what you're going to do necessarily before the draft or before your actual rookie draft, because there's a lot to go yet. But in general, I would say that in Superflex,
I'm letting
you're going for one of the quarterbacks there. What?
Well, okay, so Bijan, and then some order of Stroud, Young, and Richardson, which means at 5, you get your choice. You get to do whatever the heck you want. And I believe as of right now, that choice should not be Will Levis. I'm letting him slip further. And I don't remember if we were even recording at the time when I said it, where when Zach was on your show, and he said someone asked, people ask him, what do you do if you're on the clock and JSN and Gibbs are both on the board? And he says, well, I always break ties to running backs, so I'm drafting JSN. Which,
yeah.
So yeah, like bias probably.
After Bijan Robinson, there's anyone.
Gibbs is good, but landing spot matters more for running backs, especially someone like Gibbs. So, like, unless it's for someone that Gibbs needs to be used in the right way for him to succeed. It's the whole Sony Michel thing.
We're going to come to the same answer. Yeah, Bijan Robinson and JSN go ahead of quarterbacks in this draft and no one else. I would say if Stroud or Young are still on the board before the draft, so I don't know. But if they've gone top 12, I'm probably taking those two. Yes. Then it's JSN.
Oh, yeah. If someone
JSN's
takes
on the board and those two are gone
ahead, you should take Stroud, Young, or Richardson, whichever fell to the 5, or trade back a spot.
That's kind of what I'm going for. Otherwise, yeah, you're taking JSN and you thanking the gods of fantasy Twitter for making everyone believe that guys who win aren't good. Cypher, hey guys, 10-team Dynasty, PPR Superflex, just our kind of speed. Appreciate you, Cypher. Do you trade KJ Osborne? Yes, for anything. Yeah, for anything. And James Robinson for Njoku? Oh,
yes.
I think I prefer James Robinson.
Why?
Running back. If I'm going to roster depth, it's going to be James Robinson. It's going to be running back.
What team is he on now?
I don't know.
I feel like that's important. At least Njoku was getting decent targets last year.
I'm just very low on the whole Njoku is a thing now idea.
Oh, I'm not willing to buy into it because that's cool. Like it'll just hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
I guess after all of this, but still, like, the answer to this is pretty easily Njoku for me.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably
having nothing to do with saying John Watson on your team,
and you're getting something for depth, and that's fine. Just not excited to get Njoku, but he is the answer there. Thank you, Cypher. Recovering Ridley Truther. In a 12-team Superflex, 1 PPR, 2 tight end premium league, who are some of the wide receivers or tight ends you'd package the 108 or the 109 and DJ Moore? Wait. You'd package for the 108, 109 tier and DJ Moore? What am I getting wrong here? And to upgrade to.
He wants to get up. I have so many damn 108 and 109s. So he wants to move up.
Oh, okay.
He's asking who should he go for the 108 or 109 in DJ Moore?
Okay.
Ask player.
Jalen Waddle?
Yeah, I mean, that's where you start because the 108, at least, the 108 is in that second tier of players. It's outside of I'll call it the third tier because Bijan tier by himself, 3 quarterbacks, tier 2, and then you get JSN, Gibbs, and Addison.
Addison's the guy I'm hoping to get there,
Wait, yeah. 3 quarterback. Okay, so yeah, they never mind. So yeah, either of them. Because Quentin Johnston or Zach Charbonnet are my next two players, and depending on where they go, how they go is gonna really affect whether they were there in that tier or not. So clearly, you always try the 109 first, but you're still getting a pretty good player plus DJ Moore. You should start at the T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle area and work your way down a little bit. And if you're talking tight ends, anyone but Pitts. I'd go for Kelsey and Mark Andrews for this.
Pitts' value is interesting right now. But yeah, I think he's got the right idea. You start with Jalen Waddle, and if they want to do it, he is kind of an interesting value right now. It's AJ Brown, same tier, but you get different trades in different leagues, and so he's definitely worth trying. And then
if
you really
not Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. Everyone else is worth a shot. This isn't an offensive offer to anyone else. It won't get accepted a lot, but you'll find the right person. They'll just be like, yeah.
And if you just want out, send one of those picks. See if you can pick up Debo. I'm really conflicted on his value and what to do with him in Dynasty right now.
I believe you can pull Debo with the 108 or 109 by itself.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Just send one of them, and then you get out of that tier, and you get some Debo just to diversify. Because I mean, he should have 1,000-yard season rushing, receiving combined as a floor, and that's a really good floor just to get out of that pick that could be a miss. And if you're just looking to get out of the range, just for one of them, it's a really interesting offer if you can't get one of those guys up earlier. Or try Treylon Burks. He's a rookie. I think we should send offers on for around the same value. Send the 108 and a second, or trying to get Treylon, or DJ Moore straight up for Treylon. Just try and get some of that youth back, some of value. I like it. No? Yes? Russ is frozen. Everyone waving.
Sorry.
No. IDP linebackers to targets. Don't know if you're into ITB. Just figured I'd ask. Not enough that I would try and answer questions. I just kind of throw everyone to Tom Kisslingberry at DLF IDP stuff.
Go to the other Englishman.
Yeah. That's the other English. That's the other English guy. Sorry, and there's only very good format. I'm struggling to keep track of the 4 positions. The idea of expanding it has always just been. I tried it here and there. Couldn't keep up. I don't get it. The best players get the worst points. I don't. Thomas H, 10 team, 1 QB, half point PPR. Would you do the 107 and Mike Williams for any of the following? DK, yes.
All of the following.
Adams, yes. Devontae Smith, definitely. Josh Allen, 1 QB.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, I would do it for any of. Which would you prefer if they're all on the table? Which is your favorite? I would say take your pick, and I would not call it a bad trade. So whichever you prefer, Thomas.
All right. The answer, I think my order of these players is
in 1 QB:
Devonta, DK, Allen, Adams.
I might put DK, Devontae, Allen, Adams, but
that's probably the right answer. But I'm just way too into Devonta right now.
I mean that's fair. I mean, so is everyone. That's why I was kind of leaning.
And I also love DK, which was why I'm just going to say words, and whatever comes out, I'm just going to roll with, and that's what happened.
Yeah, roll with your gut. But honestly, Thomas, any of those on the board in a trade offer, I'd be interested in.
But just Adams to the end, because
that's part of my conflict with trades. Every time I'm looking at a good trade, I'm like, I wonder what else I could get, and then I screw it up. So just pick your favorite and be happy with it. I would say. What do you do when your league doesn't like to trade their vets? That can happen. Cut Diggs, Chubb, Mike Evans, none of them for sale. Got it. It makes it hard to buy talent for teams that don't realize they probably aren't contending. First thing I'd adjust here, Thomas. You want them because you know that they're good. If they have these good players, they probably are contending. That's always a conflict with me. I'm like, why won't you give in to the things that I thought you would be giving into? But they're probably making very decent bets on trying to have points. I always try and be harsher with my evaluation of their decision than my own. It tends to have net positive results. Having said that, you're going to have to go the other way. You're buying Treylon Burks. Well, Burks is a little more risky. If they're valuing vets well, then they might not value Devontae Smith, who we just mentioned nearly as well. They might be one of the leagues where Drake London is actually accounting for some of his lower ADP. And so you try and find those. Again, there's no real way to shut down playing a dynasty league unless the entire league just decides to specifically shut you down personally. And while it can feel that way, I don't think it is. You just kind of have to adjust where they're at. Like we were saying about trades earlier, ADP in the market just gives you an idea of what to explore. And then if the person in your league is like, no, it's not that they're silly, it's that they're listening to similar things that you are. Like, no, I know this guy's going to score points. I listen to the Dynasty Grind. No, I listen to the Matthew Berry's podcast probably. And he said he's going to be good. So yeah, that's why. And that's okay. There's no real way of shutting down a good process in Dynasty as long as you're willing to not this is where value comes in. It's like you want Mike Evans. You're a fan. We expect good things. We want Cooper Kupp. Like, I really want Cooper Kupp in Dynasty right now. But if the value's not there in my league, I can't get addicted to the name. I have to stick to the process. Well, if I can't get Kupp, can I get Michael Thomas for less? Because no one likes Michael Thomas. How about Calvin Ridley? Is this one of the leagues where Calvin Ridley is suspected to be overvalued, and so he's still trading for a second or less? Yeah. You just have to find where the value or where the best options for your team is. And sometimes the answer is, honestly, and this is the most frustrating part about Dynasty, there's not. Like, your league wants to keep everything. It wants to stay put. And that can be a problem of, this isn't the league for you. Maybe you have to go find a league that's more willing to take bets, or the more likely that half the league's trying to build, half the league's trying to buy, which tends to be what happens in my leagues, which is where we get fairly decent movement. People are either trying to go in one direction or another, and there's very few teams just like staying the course. I'm going to see what happens and building through the draft. The Zach Reed strat. But I have been, and I am in some leagues where that happens a lot. Everyone's just like, nope, I'm betting on my process. I drafted well. I'm going to keep playing the waiver wire. I'm pretty happy for going to the playoffs every year. And to be fair, while we do say to unbalance that and try to go one way or the other, the reason is because that is a solid strategy employed by a lot of people. So we're trying to find an edge over that strategy to try and win more consistently or more often, or this year, hopefully. But ultimately, it's not a terrible process. That's why so many people feel like it. Because if you can get to the playoffs, literally anything can happen in fantasy football. Like, you can have the worst roster, you can be the lowest scoring and win it all. You just have to get to the playoffs. So we make fun of the being in the middle, but it's a solid play. You're balancing points per game and value. You're not trying to find an edge over everyone else. You're just playing solidly. So again, depending on where your league is or why they're not trading those vets, I'd say reconsider going for, if they're not valuing those guys, maybe they're undervaluing the Drake Londons of the world, or just reassess why they're valuing them that way. Because it might just be because they're pretty happy to be in the middle, in which case I might go more exaggerated towards draft capital. Is it easier to trade up in the draft? Is it not? Or is it just no move to make right now? And that's okay too. Injuries and the like. You could explore things like, I know you're highlighting running backs and wide receivers here, and I don't know if it's a super flex. You said it's a 1 QB earlier. That top 5 QB edge that Zach Reed talks about. George Kittle, top 5 tight end who's sometimes undervalued right now. So you're going for some of the lesser shiny edges in points per game scoring. Yeah, and if all of those get shut down, again, it is possible there's just no decent move to make. Or find a league with Russ in it, because like he just can't not trade. So you're like, oh, I just send something to Russ. Let's get something moving.
It's a problem. Like it's so much fun to hear John Bosch yell at me. Just log out. Just unlink your franchises. Have someone else change your password. But it's fun. I like it.
So yeah, you just go looking for other ideas of where you could improve your team. Unfortunately, it's impossible to make someone else think something. It's why trade comments are always a bad idea. While it's fun if you know them, and I'm constantly sending trolling messages in my trades, to be clear, probably don't do it. There's nothing you can write in that little comment box that doesn't sound condescending. Now, me, I lean into that, but you probably shouldn't, because most people are like normal, and they won't like it. Well, they don't like it when I do it. For some reason, I get away with it. But like, it happens to me too. No matter what they write in the box, as heartfelt and meaningful as it's meant, it always sounds a little bitchy, and it's not meant that way.
The only time I put a comment,
you're trying to convince someone of something they don't think, and that's always condescending almost.
There's 2 times. One is legit. One is before the rollover. If I'm sending picks, I'll put what picks they are in the comments to save someone else. Like, I don't want someone to be like, oh, that's probably low. I don't want that. Like, so I could be like, no, like 102 and 106. Like, that's what these are. But also, I will put something in the comments like, I have no idea if this is getting across what I was thinking, but here's what I was thinking. I'll never say this is why you should do it. This is why it's good for you. This is why I want to do it. It's literally just
don't explain their side of it. Just say, I was thinking this for me. What do you think?
Because I also operate under the circumstances that I'm wrong a lot of the time. So it's like, this is what I was thinking when I put this together. If you don't think that's what this does, but you agree with what I was saying, feel free to send something back. Like, it's really just I'm not a jerk. I'm just an idiot.
Yeah, I guess what I'm really focusing on is like you can't explain to someone else why they're wrong. Because it never goes well, especially when you're just 2 league managers in Dynasty. Most people assume you're trying to con them or something.
Vets
like
now,
I have begged people,
cheap, but...
like I've shown them my history and said, look, every time someone doesn't do a trade with me, it ends up that they should have. Because I'm crazy risky. I go all in. J. Mike Check definitely should have traded me N'Keal Harry when I was desperate for his, because he's falling in value. And I'm the guy who made everyone draft him. And you definitely should. It's not going to work out. I'm telling you the odds against favor, but I just want to do it. J. Merckx was like, I know. I know you're trying to trick me. I wasn't. He didn't work out. But anyway, even then, even when it's honestly the best thing they should do, they just... I don't know why I've gone off on this tangent, but Thomas, I feel you, man. The best advice I can give, I made a video to this effect once, but I didn't publish it because I didn't feel like it was cohesive enough. I don't like doing... maybe do these things. I like more direct stuff, but you can't change what anyone else thinks, so you have to change what you're approaching for. And if vets are the things that aren't trading, go looking for what might, because most people actually really do enjoy trades. They want to get something done. They're bored. They're waiting for the draft. So you guys just got to find where it is. Kittle's interesting. Read another article of potential trade targets, and then try them and find out, no, I don't want to trade those players either. But yeah, that's about the only thing you can try and do. Flowsaurus, 12 teams, blue flex, 1 point PPR, or just PPR. Start 10. Semi-rebuild, aiming for 2024. Aim for 2023, but I get the strap. Sell Russ Wilson and KJ Osborne. Why's KJ Osborne
What's happening? Did something happen with KJ Osborne?
For Drake London. Yes, definitely. Russ Wilson is undervalued, but even if he does great this year, I don't know he vaults back up there in ADP.
He can't bolt back up, like unless he plays like Peyton Manning that year. He's not bolting back up. He's old and he's disappointed for way too long.
And especially in your situation, this is just an opportunity to get Drake London. I think that's plus EV move in a build. So yeah, thank you, buddy. Kevin, thank you. R.I.P.
Oh no, that's Kevin Conroy. He died a couple of months ago.
Recovering Ridley Truther, 12 team Superflex, 1 point PPR, 2.5 tight end premium. Give Kenneth Walker, get the one.
Ago, Vikings Osborne helped save a man from a burning car. That's the last piece of news on KJ Osborne.
I mean, that's pretty cool. I don't think it scores me points, but it's pretty cool. Kenneth Walker of the 104. Go. Superflex. I think, and especially in 2.5 tight end premium, this is a 104. But it feels really bad. It feels like we undervalue Kenneth Walker, but like...
Yo, that's too far. 2.5?
In a Superflex? Oh,
2.5 tight end premium? Like... Unless you could say it doesn't count for Travis Kelce. Like, Travis Kelce would be the 101 in this league for me.
Yeah. Like, they probably should be drafting 3 tight ends this year in the first round. That's how insane that is. And which is why the 104 is definitely worth more than Kenneth Walker. It's probably a quarterback, but in this format, there are options at that pick. A top 12 running back. Again, a really good top 12 running back. That's what we expect from Kenneth Walker, and this would be a good trade. Yeah. So it's not meant to be hatred. Mike D'Angelo just picked up an orphan in full rebuild mode and was able to flip Derrick Henry, Brandon Cooks, and Ertz for Kyle Pitts. And I feel pretty great about it. Tight end premium as well. Yeah, I think that's really solid.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're a rebuilding team, this is Derrick Henry for Kyle Pitts, and I call that a victory.
Yes. And Ertz. He's getting some tight end points back too. Matt, how's the streaming? Both on this channel and the DLF channel. I know there are buttons. I click them. It just asks, where would you like to stream? And I'm like, DLF, my channel, that one. There's actually a whole bunch of other faces of other DLF contributors. And sometimes I'm like, maybe I should just put me on their channel too. Why not? But so far I've refrained. But yeah, I also connected it to my Twitch. Because literally no one but me, I think, streams on Twitch for fantasy football, so I got to keep it up. You know, I got to be out there representing.
I don't think I've heard of Twitch until you started talking about it, like however many years ago that was. But you could stream to like 8 different places at the same time through StreamYard.
Especially when we're not monetized or sponsored. I know like Ninja and some of the big streamers, like there's rules around it.
Oh yeah,
like this.
Nobody cares what we do.
Okay, it's not. We're not him, as it were. Joe Herbert, Thomas H. If your league doesn't trade, you need to become as knowledgeable as possible on each incoming rookie class. Yeah, I mean, you can always try to foster a spirit of trading. You really can make trades happen with trades. But the other way, yeah, you can explore the other ways to play in Dynasty. Or find a new league or another league. You don't have to leave necessarily. But yeah, some leagues don't trade as much. And it's whatever people enjoy, you know. D Magoon, half point PPR, I'm assuming. 10 team, 2 QB, 0.5 10 in premium. Okay. 1 of 2. That's what it meant. So it's 0.5 10 in premium, start 10. Inbox. He's got Mahomes, Rashad White, Sky Moore, the 307 for the 101, the 104, and the 207. Garoppolo, Javonte Williams, Malik Davis. Is this too much to pay with my roster? And the roster is dead.
I don't care what your roster is. What's the...
Me neither, but it's nice to know. Thank you.
Mahomes. I see. Okay, this is how old I am. I see R. White, and I still think Roddy White.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see that.
Okay, so Mahomes
breaking it down. Sky Moore doesn't matter here.
Garoppolo, Javonte, Malik Davis.
Davis doesn't matter.
Okay, so the 101, 104.
Pat Mahomes for the 101.
Javonte for Mahomes.
Javonte. I don't mean to keep talking over you. I'm just going to let you finish.
Oh, no, I'm just trying to play this. Like, this is just a lot.
Me too. I'm trying to simplify, which is, I think, what this trade ultimately needs. But so let's just check it's not good for you anyway. I think it's Mahomes for the 101 and Javonte, and I think I want the Mahomes side.
Like, this is Mahomes for the 101 and 104. The rest of it, I don't care about.
There is a 104. Javonte is kind of interesting. I would value that.
Yeah, I'm out until, like, I'm fine if I miss out on that. I just, he hurt his knee later, and to a similar extent as J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins shouldn't have come back when he did. Javonte shouldn't come back until later in the season anyway. When it comes down to it, in a 2-quarterback league, yeah, I'd probably trade that for Mahomes.
And based on what he's saying here, he's trading away Mahomes. He would be left with Lawrence, Lance, Minshew.
Oh.
Yeah, I think he keep Mahomes, man.
Lawrence.
He's trying to get into this year's rookie draft. I like the idea of going and getting the 101.
I would keep Mahomes home. He would send away the 101, 105. No, for his 101, he'd be getting Mahomes.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Right. Go get Mahomes. Get Mahomes. You'll never be.
We're on the Mahomes side.
Yes.
So, yeah, and you'd be fine. I think you just want Mahomes in this trade, but there's a really lot thrown into this, but there are only a few really important points. And since you're getting Mahomes, you don't need to simplify the trade. Don't make it easy for them to understand that. I think you're getting the best thing here.
Or even if you are worried, what you do is you do this trade, and then in like a month, you just trade Mahomes for 2 things. Like 2 really good things, as opposed to the 2 good things and 18 things you're giving away. Like, I get it. It's 2 QBs.
Lamar Jackson plus right now.
Third quarterback on your team. So losing Jimmy Garoppolo is a little bit of a deal, but like not enough to make me not go get Patrick Mahomes.
Like, even later, you could get Lamar Jackson plus a really good wide receiver or a really good running back if you really wanted to. But honestly, I think you just keep Mahomes. I think he's the one adding more points and more value to your roster. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah. Thank you, though, D. Magoon. Frank N. Single-digit jersey numbers equals up 1 fantasy tier.
No.
Thoughts on Alvin Kamara, Superflex Dynasty? Value is interesting right now, especially since we might miss time because of preceding legal action. Yeah, he's going to keep playing. The running backs we have right now are still going to be the running backs we have for a couple years. Bijan Robinson's going to sit on top of him. We're going to get a few more surprises from this year's draft. I don't expect a 2017 class anytime soon, which would be the only thing that revolutionizes the position. So we're going to get a few extra. Alvin Kamara's at his value low, but he's going to stay there because he's a running back and he's older. So if you're interested in his points, I think now's a really interesting time to like throw a really late second at him, see what the owner thinks. Otherwise, you just go get running back when you need running back, which is in season if he's scoring points.
His value has fallen very, 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 very far. And it should have fallen A through age, B through he just wasn't doing it most of last season, except for like that one random game in like week 13 where he felt like putting up 40 points. And because he's going to miss a couple of games, and missing a couple of games at the age of 28 or 29 matters at this point. Like it's a good chunk of the rest of his career. But like if you can get Kamara for like a mid-second, like you just do that.
Agreed. Equity loans. Interesting comments from the Atlanta head coach at owners meeting. I would lean towards selling high on Pitts. Yeah, I read some of those, or I saw someone else tweet them. That's how I get my news. I refuse to adjust for anything coaches say because they lie, and every time I try it, like that's when they're lying. But also, just Pitts has not actually disappointed. He's just disappointed people expected him to be Travis Kelce or Rob Gronkowski year one. Like he's had a really good start to his career, like better than Evan Ingram, which was a real concern. He didn't have a year two, if you remember, whereas he was still pretty decent this year. Atlanta's kind of a mess, but I mean, at this point, you're just rolling the Pitts value and expecting it to bounce back at some point. Toronto Dave says football party hat head.
Toronto Dave.
And S. Kamara's a baby boy when... Kamara's a baby boy won me my first title. Crazy how time flies. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, man. I remember Alvin Kamara with 101 days too. RM32, what are your thoughts on Christian Watson post Rodgers? Has it happened yet? Is it post Rodgers yet?
Not happened,
it's probably going to be.
Read the next sentence. You did great, whoever you are, RM32. Like that's a
for the
great price.
2.1 and 2.5 in 1 QB league. Feel pretty good about it. Yeah. As someone who spends most of his time defending the hatred or dislike I have of some of Christian Watson's ancillary stats, I am higher than the average on him. Because everyone's a little worried because of those touchdowns, and I also don't exactly buy the volume argument, which is why I get into a lot of fights over it. But he had a good rookie season. There's no, I do not mean to deny that. And so for the 201 on 2.5, this is just a walk-off win, even in especially in a 1 QB. So yeah,
it was very good.
Losing Rodgers hurts, but if he's good, it won't matter as much. It shouldn't affect that value, if you know what I mean, especially this low. So. And S, 10 teams through flex 2.06 for Ridley. Thanks for answering all the questions. Not a problem, and S. And I actually like that trade. Yeah, I'm still in on Ridley if it costs like a mid to late second round pick. Zach said you're buying after it comes up, and he doesn't like that so much. But like, I'm a fool, and I'll consistently be a fool. And I think in season you can easily get that back, even if you're not winning, when he's scoring points again. So I think it's relatively low risk if he does anything like what we expect when he comes back. Even pre-draft, he's going to jump back up into the 24. I think he can get that back at any point. Jacob Calloway, 108, 110, 208, 25 mid-second. You don't know it's mid, but okay. For AJ Brown, Kyron Williams, sure. And the 310. So this is the 108, the 110, and the 208, I guess. And a mid-second for AJ Brown.
AJ Brown.
I think that's solid. It's AJ Brown.
That's very easily AJ Brown for me.
Like a fan, you got not getting an amazing discount, but you're getting a discount on AJ Brown, and I would be happy with that.
You're getting AJ Brown without giving away a solid pick. Like the 108's okay. Assuming this is even super flex, the 108's okay.
I was just recommending he be one, like it's Jalen Waddle, then try AJ Brown, and if he to someone else for the picks package he was trying to offer, and if he came back and he said he got this, I'd say you did even better than I expected. This is a great trade. And this is why AJ Brown's interesting to send trade offers on. It's hard, especially when you start playing in good leagues where other owners can shut you down and stuff. It's hard to give up a lot because when we think we're buying, we're thinking we're getting it for nothing. Whereas you're taking on risk here. AJ Brown can get hurt. He's not Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, for example. But this is more than fair. It's a hard thing to get used to. I know personally, the more I try and get into trades, it's like I don't want to give up all these picks, but that's killer value. It really is.
It is. It's very good.
KJ Abrams trash. Hey, harsh but true. Almost trash, but great real life dude. I'm sure. Yeah, I assume until proven otherwise. I assume people are great dudes, especially since I would rather NFL players be great, since I'm such a big fan of the sport. It's unfortunate when they disprove us, but he does. I mean, he saved someone, so that's pretty high on the list of being a good dude. Polo 313, 10-team 1 QB. I traded the 107 and Rashad White for CMC. Oh, beautiful! I love it. Is that a good trade? That is an excellent trade, especially in 1 QB, because we keep saying that just in case we haven't explained it this stream, because there are quarterbacks early in the draft in Superflex. It means some of the players that we would draft in the top 5 are actually falling to the 107 and 108. Whereas in a 1 QB, they're going ahead of that, which means you're outside the tier where it would give us pause based on your team situation to trade for a running back. So this is a great trade, in my opinion. Christian McCaffrey should easily trade for a top 4, top 3 pick in 1 QB, at least, maybe even a plus. Yeah, great trade. Zach Harris, would you rather have a shot at KJ or Addison at the 109? I have Addison higher. The more I look at it, the more I'm like, I can see how people go back and forward, and you kind of go to preference. I'm much more certain of Addison's floor is a way to justify it. I'm just more convinced he actually hits based on how I view the data. But it's not meant to be a slight in KJ. You've got to rank at a certain point. They get a similar score overall in very different roles. Yeah. Roddy White is wonderful.
He is.
Hey, Bob. It's Mahomes. Move on. Never move on. I will spend 10 minutes talking about everyone's individual question. They're all unicorns. They're all snowflakes, and they deserve special treatment. Bob's such a hater, man.
That guy.
Caesar, 12-team Superflex start 10, got offered the 102, the 106, and the 202. Alec Pierce and Damian Harris for Mahomes. I would keep Mahomes. Yeah, Mahomes is...
You need to be like, like for the other side to give away Mahomes. No,
in that trading video I eventually didn't release, like there are some players that are just in a very different tier where basically unless you're building, you can't even try to trade them. It's Mahomes, it's Allen, then you've got Chase, and you've got Jefferson, and that's really it. Because Kelsey's a little older and Pitts fell in value. There's just no package like this that's going to be that package side. I mean, we just turned down Bijan Robinson for Mahomes. Like he just hits a little different, especially in Superflex. Get the guy you know scores the most points in the league. Exactly, Bob. Also value. Equity loans. Sky Moore will be a top 25 wide receiver. I like the top 24 category you've decided on. Come league draft based on situation and opportunity. Equity loans, I do not think he's going to finish like that. I think we know enough to declare him a bust. But you have this is actually a more interesting statement. By the time we get to the draft, by the time we get to this season starting, people may well buy into that. It'll be Tony and Sky Moore, and who's going to be the next Kansas City wide receiver? And the answer is probably neither. But you're right that there might be a peak of value coming, in which case I would say hold your Sky Moore shares and just sell that. I don't think it's going to happen, but that is an interesting idea that by the time we get to the season, people might believe it could. Because, I mean, he could, to be fair. I just think it's less likely.
I always like the player.
Yeah. I'm rooting for the player. I'm just trying to win Dynasty as well. Equity loans. No rookie wide receiver ever got Andy Reid's off the first... okay.
Sure. I don't know, man.
That just reminds me too much of the Clyde Edwards-Helaire can't miss because of Jamal Charles argument, which was literally this. Yeah, but there's also a reason Andy Reid was like, maybe I'll trade for Tony. to fill in more narrative, which also I can't possibly know. I'm rooting for Sky Moore, but the history on wide receivers who perform one coach or another the way he did last year is pretty conclusive.
But like, again, what have they done at wide receiver that was good?
But as far as expectation goes,
in general, like, let's just talk about the Chiefs' Andy Reid, because they had a lot of good wide receivers when he was in Philly. Never at the same time, really. But regardless, what good wide receivers did they have? And I will even add, on purpose, in Kansas City. Look, they saw something in Tyreek, yeah. But I don't think anybody saw Tyreek being what he turned into. But like, even besides him,
they clearly put effort into
Chris Conley, Demarcus Robinson, all of these guys, where it's just like, they're so athletic and they're so good. Once they leave Kansas City, they're going to be so great. And I can't think of their names, because who the fuck are they? Like,
again, that rookie season, he was in an open competition at wide receiver. I remember liking Donald Robinson, I think his name was, a little bit more, because he played in college, had a decent breakout age, which is something I valued more highly than I do now.
Denard, the offensive weapon Robinson.
And there was also that other guy who rolled around the league like MVS, to be honest with you, who was also on the Chiefs this year, weirdly, but never quite paid off. But by the end of the season, I remember it was pretty clear that Tyreek had won, and definitely through his second year. Again, anything can happen, and it's not like these exact situations, the macro isn't predictive of the micro on this individual level, but we have to make decisions when it comes to anything that has signal. Again, the history on it's pretty conclusive, but anything can happen because it's real life, obviously, and we don't know these players, and these players have potential well above historical norms. So if you just want to keep rostering Sky Moore, that's fine. But I'm going to have to say, in Dynasty, betting on his value right now, although if you're trading away a third, fourth round pick from a Cole Hardman or Sky Moore, I'm like, yeah, you do you, to be honest with you.
More power to you.
But like, I'm not hyped for it. I'm not basing my season around this will happen, and therefore I have these points, because I don't think that's likely. Sup, boys? Not much, but thanks for de-aging me there. 1.5 or T? T. I don't have a picture, but yeah, T. Higgins. I'd also take Jalen Waddle and AJ Brown in the same tier, or CD.
Really love Jackson Smith and Jigba. Mm-hmm. But we know, like, we've seen, it's there. This is the right, like, T. Higgins is the right answer, but I'm not sad.
I'm surprised if JSN goes below the fourth in most rookie drafts, but he could with Richardson, Stroud, and Young.
I think it's going to be Bijan at 3 quarterbacks. Like, that's me playing it safe, like conservative.
But even that puts him at 4, 3, 4, and then the 5th. No, you're right.
Yeah.
I don't do math, okay? Love Sky Moore, and I want Tony too, but those hammies, man.
I know, it's rough. But, like, AJ Brown stayed healthy this year. This is the first year he stayed healthy.
Oh yeah, if that's the only thing you don't like about Tony, like, I mean, take the ride, man. He's an athletic,
so much fun to watch.
Potential's all there. Again, I just rely on what probability or expectation based on what has happened in the past, and both of them are blow odds hits. But if you're getting them for decent value, everything's a good bet at decent value. And if they're your guys, you love watching them. Injury prone is the only concern you have. Definitely trade late second, third. For any one of the three, just take the ride and have fun. Yeah, because they're individuals at the end of the day. They can definitely make it happen. What are you trading away, Debo? What pick are you trading away, Debo Samuel? I was saying to trade for Debo Samuel at the 108. Like, I would trade the 108 for Debo Samuel if I was of a mind to trade out of that.
108 is the right price to go back and forth. Like, give me Quentin Johnson or Debo Samuel, and I'll have fun either way.
Mm-hmm. What pick does it take to get?
I really just think 108 is the right price, depending on which way you want to go. If you want a guy that you know is going to be a top 24 fantasy wide receiver, just go take Debo. You want to have some fun?
I think he has top 12 season too.
You take the pick.
Yeah, it depends on my team situation, but it's around there. I might bump it up to the 107, just because
I'm not there for that.
I tend to roster points at a higher rate than I do mystery picks, but it's the same thing.
Because again, I'll take Addison over Debo, and that's what that is.
So 107, the Addison range is where I'm willing to risk it if I need more certain points in 2023. Thoughts on Christian Watson? Got off a DJ Moore in a late second and a third for him. It's not bad. I think I would take DJ Moore there because just getting the random second round flyer.
They're probably both around that wide receiver 18 to 22 area. And I like DJ Moore.
I wouldn't trade Adams for Watson. Man, the value's all over the place here. And that's his team, which doesn't affect me generally. You've got Waddle. Good job. Yeah, I want Adams. Then it's DJ Moore. Really close next to Watson. So that's the order. Yeah.
Agreed.
Zach Harris. I do hate it when we agree. How do you feel about the most recent Purdy news and its effect on Lance? Buy, sell, or hold? Yeah, wasn't that another coach saying he's earned the chance to start or whatnot? Again, I'm not gonna.
I loved this one. Can I tell this one?
Yeah.
Because first, it was the GM. It was John Lynch who said, it's clear that Brock Purdy is the leader in the locker room. If the first snap was happening right now and he were healthy, Brock Purdy would take it. But then, someone asked Kyle Shanahan if there is one of his quarterbacks that he told the GM that are just off the board, off hands when it comes to trades. And he said, I love all three of my quarterbacks, which he was probably just adding Sam Darnold to be nice. And I want all three of them on our team, but no one's hands off. I'm just like, yes, Kyle Shanahan. Everyone is available for trade for the right price. That's how you play Dynasty. Yes. Yes.
I think that's interesting. Of course, in Dynasty, I don't have to plan a locker room or do any of that difficult stuff. And so the decision becomes a lot easier. If you have Brock Purdy, you're hoping for a streamer quarterback and a super flex. But you're not hoping for a lot of future. I don't think he becomes Tom Brady or Russell Wilson ultimately. And so if I get anything more for that or in a building frame of mind, I will trade him away pretty much what I can get. The one that's got more interesting fantasy upside is Trey Lance. And that doesn't change based on who they say they like or don't like or whatever, to be honest with you. And so that's one of my ideas. Like if I'm in a Superflex league and I've got the Anthony Richards pick, I'm interested in Trey Lance plus. Can I get Dak Prescott plus? He's in that kind of tier as production versus potential upside and value. Dak Prescott's more certain in production. Trey Lance is more speculative in higher upside.
You don't words. I'm like so overwhelmed with all these things they're trying to say at once. No, this does not change anything on any player values whatsoever. You want to know why? Most importantly, because only one of them will be available to start when it comes to the beginning of the season. Brock Purdy cannot play that soon. Physically, won't be ready to play. Trey Lance is starting.
Good point.
What that means down the road, I don't know, but I don't care.
Also a good point. Sorry, my ear hurts. It's like these are too tight, and I'm such a nerd. Like tight earphones hurts.
That's why I don't wear them.
Yeah. I don't know how to live if I can hear my own voice, so I don't like that. Retooling, rebuilding teams.
Wired headphones, but you see, like I can't sit still. I rock around, and I kept knocking them out of my ears.
I'm high on Watson. I'm not sure what to do. Again, play the value.
You want Watson, you hold him. That's fine.
Yeah, honestly, if again the value upside is on the Watson.
For not accepting the DJ Moore side, it's if you like Watson, you keep Watson. Don't forget, this is supposed to be a little bit of fun. Like you're supposed to like what you have.
You're allowed to give away too much in value to get the player that you want.
Yeah,
it's just when it's too imbalanced, we would say, don't for sure. So this is within the range. If you just want to take the Christian Watson ride, I think it's fine. I'm telling you, I'm not on that train as much, but that's okay. If we thought the exact same thing, like there'd be no point in talking to each other. And I do like talking to you. Gremlin 1314. What are your current rookie RB ranks? Did a video on that. I don't know why I keep referring to my videos like anyone watches them, but like I literally just did a whole series on my running back ranks. Sean Robinson in a tier of his own, Jamar Gibbs in a tier of his own, and then I've got a tier of 3 players, and that includes Tank Bigsby is my 3, which I think is the biggest difference between me and everyone else, and then there's Devin A-Chain is 5, and 4 was Zach Charbonnet. So.
Yeah, Charbonnet is my next guy, and then at that point and even with Charbonnet, like I always say, we always say that the combine doesn't really matter, but like when a dude blows up the combine, it matters to the NFL. So I think that will make Charbonnet feel a little safe for draft capital wise. Right. So like for right now, I feel okay saying he's my running back 3, but that will very easily be changed up, come draft.
Those are my top 3 tiers, by the way. There's a solid tier 4 that I'm really interested in, which again speaks to the worth of this class, to be honest with you. But they all have warts or role concerns, or they didn't play much in college. It's Roschon Johnson tier.
Yes, that's who I was exactly what I was going to say. The guy that matters most to me right now is seeing where he gets drafted, because
Tajay Spears playing in a much lower conference. Deuce Vaughn being tiny.
Yeah, it's going to matter a lot when he gets drafted.
It will. Jacob Calloway, what's your take on Wan'Dale Robinson? I have to say he's a guy I usually would have spent the offseason saying, make sure you trade second for Wan'Dale Robinson. I don't know if it's the Giants or just that they only got to see one good game. He's worth what he's worth, but he's not a particular target of mine. I still hope. I had him ranked pretty high, and the injury is a worthwhile excuse to keep hope. It's the same thing for Jameson Williams, but ultimately he's a rookie behind another rookie class that I'm more interested in right now, and so I can't spend a lot of value on him.
For a 25-second, I do that easily.
For 25 seconds, sure.
Yeah, like Wan'Dale was doing really well, and then he got hurt, but also Wan'Dale should not be a number 1 wide receiver, so like you want them to go get someone else.
Yeah. Thoughts on Devontae Adams, Monty Lance, and 105 for Garrett Wilson and Ramondre Stevenson, I'm going to guess. 12 teams.
I am so glad you figured that out, because I was not going to. And I'm like, he spelled Amon-Ra wrong and left off the Amon. Like, what?
No, I'm pretty sure that's Ramondre.
In a super oh, wait, no. Yeah, go get Garrett Wilson. I would do that. Wait, crap. There's a lot. Like, I'm like, yeah, that's great. Oh, wait, no, that's Lance. No, that's great. Oh, wait, crap. There's the 105 also?
Yeah, the 105 and Lance probably wins, but it's pretty even. So you're basically getting Garrett Wilson for Adams and Monty and Ramondre Stevenson. I'll take Ramondre Stevenson. So yeah, it's a Garrett Wilson side, as uncomfortable as that makes me. Yeah.
It's fun.
Jacob Calloway, sorry. Who are some data-driven rookie Devi analysts that you respect in the industry? No one. No, I respect a lot. All right, you want some names?
All the guys I know are tape guys.
Let me see. Ken Wayranch at Ken Wayranch on Twitter. He's a must follow. Matt Spencer, Tom Kissenberry, Gabe Gearing, not doing as much anymore, but he's actually a math teacher. You wouldn't know that from the way he can rap, but he's actually a math teacher.
He raps about
smart on the numbers. Doesn't do as much data or Devi, and he's not around as much, but I'd still like people to follow Gabe
so much. He's good.
Nate Liss, recently started talking to Nate Liss a bit more recently. He's very into Devi. He's very into data as well. At least he tries to angle himself that way. He created the, what did they call it when it was that profile? The breakout finder. I think he was the one behind that. He's interesting. Tanho, of course, at _ Tanho. Jacob Backus, at Jacob Back OUS, just in case you're wondering about the spelling. Jetpack Galileo, big fan of him. I think he's funny. Addison Hayes, obviously at DLF. Andy Eskridge, his Twitter is literally Andy Eskridge. I don't know how people get away with that. Christopher Bean, really fun follow, been around longer than me, I believe.
He's been around for a while, yeah.
Sean Slavin is my own personal hero. He's the one who really got me started with my first big data dump. He used to write for 2QBs. I think he still does fantasy content, mostly focusing on quarterback. But he's got a little sleeper. You mentioned specific. I've got like a ton. Travis May, Dave Wright, especially if you're interested in data. And if you're interested in Devi prospects, Travis May is a must follow. Let me be clear on that. Travis May, who now works for Mojo, so he's putting out less content, and it does not matter. You need to follow Travis May if you're interested in data or Devi, especially if you're interested in both. That's FF _ Travis May. Cooper Adams, just if you want to have fun on your timeline and a guy that understands data real well, even if he's a little into the nihilism thing for my taste. But yeah, Coops FB on Twitter. Blake, oh no, he recently stopped putting out content. So did Kevin. But yeah, that's my quick list. I've way too got a list. That's just a small section of the nerds. Kane, What's his at? Big Debbie. Debbie K.
I mean, he's not.
He's tape, but if you're interested in Devi, you should definitely include Kane in it, just in general, even if you like data. But yeah, Dave Wright and Travis May would be my big 2 followers for the requisites. As far as in the industry goes, I don't know. They're on my feed. They talk to me, so they're probably not in the apart from Travis. I guess he's officially in an industry now. But really smart. They know their data and they're interested in Devi prospect. Equity loan. Terrell Owens and Jackson were bad wide receivers in Philly and with a bad QB throwing. Hill had a tough first year in KC. He had a really good first year considering where he was drafted. Again, it's all relative. But yeah, if you're comparing him to people like Drake London and Garrett Wilson, then yeah, it looks pretty rough. And yeah,
I also did forget to go far back enough to remember that Terrell Owens and Deshaun Jackson played together.
Like this is literally.
I started with Macklin and Deshaun Jackson, and like they never played well at the same time. Like that's where my head was at. And then of course Macklin went to Kansas City and didn't.
This is literally part of what I was talking about in the podcast today. Like, be careful with excuses that could work for anyone. Like, I mean, if there's nothing they share in common, like there are some people had slow development, like Devontae Adams. In fact, the majority that had slow development, who had good college production, and actually met reasonable thresholds year 1, especially relative to their draft capital. Even DeAndre Hopkins had a slower start, but everyone seems to forget that one. If they have things in common that we can track and follow, I would call them outliers and the worthy of tracking. But there are some which I don't think it's reasonable to expect that we can predict them outside of I watch the tape, bro, which I can't speak to what works on a tape process. But like, yeah, there's some prospects like Tony or Tyreek Hill that we can't hope to predict because they don't have anything in common with those who did break out later or did break out with lower draft capital. You can't hope to predict a Julian Edelman or Wes Welker outside of just taking decent flyers at reasonable value for skill sets and traits and stuff on tape. But that all comes down to a value question. In terms of expecting it, an example that can work as a justification for any prospect works as a justification for no prospect. Like, you could literally use the same argument for me. Like, I could be Kansas City's biggest wide receiver last year. I mean, you all doubted Tyreek Hill. I mean, not that quite that extreme, obviously. But if it works as any, then it works for none. But yeah, not that I'm discounting your argument here, equity loan. Just be careful. Like, not be careful. It's not like it's risky. I was talking to Jake about it on Twitter, and I don't know if I upset him about it, but like Josh Allen can serve as a shield for any prospect, which means it's not a good argument for any particular prospect, even if they're a good prospect, because it doesn't add anything. It doesn't say why they would be more likely to do it. For me, anyway. There is a reason why Hardman and Juju gone. Yeah, they're on one. Well, Juju was on a 1-year contract who signed a better deal, but and Hardman, I think he would have been more expensive to sign in this free agent class. So we're not a lot of free agents that were worth it if I'm letting Juju go on. I think it's fair to say it's overall positive that they're keeping these guys, but it's not like they're going to just cut Sky Moore when they're already going to lose 2 free agents.
Like, these guys are under contract. That's all it is.
Yeah. They didn't intentionally keep them. They just had a contract, if you know what I mean. And this draft class, you could see him taking shots. So, like, again, when you're building in narrative, something that could work for any prospect doesn't work for any prospect. Work for every prospect doesn't work for anyone in particular.
And nothing makes me happier that the 2 guys that scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl, but they also cut the same touchdown.
Yeah, it's like double counting. It's not negative, but don't add more value onto what you would pay for.
There's nothing predictive about that whatsoever. Like, it's just narrative to make you happy, which for. I'm all for just telling yourself stuff that makes you happy, but like, you can't really use that in an argument.
And again, when I'm saying like I can't account for tape, what it means if you watch and you think this guy's better than what he's done, and then he does it, that's a validation of what you saw. That's not me dismissing what you saw. That's me saying I can't know. It could well show up on tape in a way that I can't access. But again, I can't say that Zach Reed has mentioned McCall Hardman a couple times as a decent value, but he's never been like Sky Moore's got more on the tape. or Jake Anderson or Matt Waldman. To be honest with you, I can't remember him mentioning it particularly, but maybe your tape process is sharper. That would be a validation of it. But that's a different question than how much do you speculate on it in Dynasty to me, which is something I think I can help out with. Just in terms of range of outcomes and some such. Hey guys, thanks for answering my question on Watson. No problem. And no trade in the works, but just curious, how do you value JMO? I value him like he's a rookie and insert him into rookie ranks, and I treat him that way. For me, he would be, because of injury and me not knowing, I put him around Addison. I actually like Addison a bit more as a prospect when my model liked JMO a lot. Addison's got the year on him, which Dynasty value and such. So it's around 8 range, and that's where I bet trade him or be interested in him. Again, he had a really good profile at a specific role that the team could really use him working in, to be
First of all, I mean, I've made my feelings about keep trade cut. I don't. It's not useful to me. He's wide receiver 27 in March ADP on DLF.
I don't. If you find him for that value, all day.
Like he should be wide receiver 27 in my mind, not wide receiver 18. Like he's RM is right. Like JMO should not be wide receiver 18.
No, you shouldn't have. It should be. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'll go with that. What would you put in terms of rookie picks? Am I too off saying 108, 109?
No, I he's right next to Quentin Johnston for me, and he honestly, literally,
actually, that's not a bad. Yeah,
for Jameson 52.
That's better than Addison.
Like they're literally next to each other. They're less than a point away from each other.
Do you think the age cliff for don't think it's real for high rushing quarterbacks is earlier than non-elite rushers? No. Cam and Vic fell off. Really, Cam outlasted Andrew Luck. Same era, the exact example of what you're talking about, and yet Cam Newton was one that lasted longer.
Like Vic, you need to put into very, very clear perspective.
That's a little different. It's a little different.
It will be different from anything else. See the difference? Like look at Russell Wilson. Like it's a very good example of you have to high rushing quarterbacks that aren't good throwers. Yeah, you should be worried about that when they're outside their rookie contracts, pretty much. But when you have someone like Russell Wilson, who is a good thrower, who, man, I'm writing off last year and I'm sticking to it. Like, you don't worry. Like, yeah, maybe he will lose some of that rushing, but he's still a good quarterback, and that's all that really matters. Like Josh Allen.
It's also just Tom Brady completely skewing this sample. Like passes don't last Tom Brady long. Well, I mean, like, no one lasts Tom Brady long.
No, like a lot of QBs last a very long time, but the problem is like now.
And Roethlisberger didn't.
I think now is the only real time where we have like the 2017, 2018 class where we got Lamar and Josh Allen. Like that's, I think, where we start this generation of actual running quarterbacks.
And that's a good point. We're not comparing. They're not that far into his career. We have to even think about when they're ending. They just started. And we're like, oh, but when they might finish in 5 years. We're talking about in 5 years, we might have to worry that Lamar won't start, but Patrick Mahomes
and also, why did Cam fall off? Because of an elbow injury. Or shoulder injury. It had nothing to do with his actual play or with his running. His arm just was never the same after that. Like that's what it was. Like I
don't think anything's
okay. So let me just.
I do think it would be easier to argue that passing is more dangerous. But sorry, yeah, go for it. I need a drink anyway. I can still hear you.
Yeah, like I am not likely to sell Hurts early because of that. If he were a mediocre passer, as opposed to he's turned into a very good passer, or maybe just because he has very good wide receivers. Like if the situation changes, then sure, maybe. But like I don't think there's anything right now that leads me to say, because this guy rushes a lot, I will get rid of him 5 years earlier than I would. But also, I'm not going to have a quarterback on my team for that long anyway. I'm not going to have any player on my team for that long anyway. Like the years of I'm going to go and get Patrick Mahomes because he's going to be my quarterback for the next 12 years. Like I laugh thinking that I used to say something like that. or like thinking a 3 to 5 year window, thinking a 3 year, thinking a 2 year, like can I get like 6 weeks? Like that's my window. Like even in the non-point scoring season, like not every trade I make is going to include someone that's going to be on my roster by the time we get there to the season.
I think that's a good point. It's more about, can you trade him for similar value this time next year? Max this time next year. It's not about, will he still be starting for you? Like, you shouldn't really expect to be starting the same players next year. You're just worried about changing your roster with the value that you have year over year to put yourself in the best position. So as long as you can still trade him for the same this time next year, max, that's where the value window comes in for me. And the answer on all these rushing QBs is yes. Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, they should all still be there, so I'm not worried about it. I predict I won't be worried about it next year either, but, you know, let's see the season first, I guess. Dynasty Scissor. 14 team Superflex startup. I have the 101. And no QBs received an offer. How much would you ask for on top of the 104 and Jordan Love for the 101?
A lot. Like that's
the value of Jordan Love.
Very late first. Like honestly, I want another mid first. Like I need a wide receiver, a running back that's going into my starting lineup, and will be happy that he's there. Like that's.
Yeah, you're
Jordan
sure too early first round pick.
I don't care that it's a 14 team startup.
Jordan Love doesn't matter to me. It's whatever you would add for the 104. I think you need a 24 pick and probably another really good pick in this draft to even start the conversation for me.
Yep.
Again, if you really think, again, to your tape process or whatever your process is, really think Jordan Love's got high upside, then I disagree, sir. But that changes it. But to me, Jordan Love is just an L. No, a 0 in this trade. So it's just the 104. And then repeat all the answers we've had about the 101. If you're trying to rebuild, would you trade CMC, the 201, and Elijah Moore for AJ Brown?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would.
Again, especially if you're rebuilding, that's just CMC for AJ Brown and some flyers. So yeah, that's
like the 201 would have been nice. Elijah Moore, whatever. Like we've talked about Elijah Moore way too much, from last show. But the 201 is a nice piece on a rebuilding team. But like, man, like you get AJ Brown, and that's what you build around.
You're rebuilding. You're moving similar value from.
You trade away the 101 also. But
yeah,
I don't know if this is super flex or not, but like. Regardless, if it is super flex, you have the 7 and the 8, which means you're getting two really, really good players in someone like Addison, Gibbs, or Quentin Johnston, or around that. And if it's not, you have the 102, in which case you're getting JSN. So like you have, and you could use the 107, 108, put them together and move up to the 105 to go get JSN. Like you have, plus, but like you, so much freedom to do whatever the heck you want with everything you have. That yes, I would 1000%. Move CMC, the 201, Elijah Moore for AJ Brown, and then build around AJ Brown.
It's just an equal trade, and you're getting the value put in the wide receiver position, which is a solid building move. It's not.
Like you're getting the age and the position that you want. It's the right move.
Yeah. How has your strategy changed with the increase in players valuing running back lower than ever? I've become increasingly interested in running back as a simple answer. Are you also valuing wide receivers higher than the 2 to 3 years ago? Like, I don't operate in a 2 to 3 year cycle, but it's fair to ask.
See, I don't know how long you've been playing, Jacob, but like, if you've been around for 9 years, you were around for the 2014, where they shifted the 2014 wide receivers shifted Dynasty over, fantasy football in general. Like, it shifted to wide receivers and it dropped. Okay, so back in 2014, 2015, 2016, like we were still drafting quarterbacks in the first round.
Not in 2014, but okay.
Oh, sorry, wife just texted, please come help. I have no idea what's going on, so I'll be back. Yay.
All right. Just me then. It's gone back. What Russ is talking about is this is a thing that cycles over time, which means we try to get ahead of the cycle. And running back value is almost exactly what it was back in 2014, actually. In fact, I wrote that up last week for DLF, and I think what I ended up finding out is that it's never been as low since 2017. Like the top 5, the top 12 are being drafted in a similar range as they were in 2017. Now, I don't expect the 2017 class to be repeated in the 2023 class as a result, having based on the players, but I do think we're going to get some youth injected into the position. And Bijan Robinson's value is going to be not that. We're going to value him like we value top running backs, which will be very different than everyone else, so long as we're right, which we are. Am I valuing wide receiver more highly? So much has changed in the way I value things in general that it's hard to do a one-to-one. For example, I stopped valuing age so much as I value good career arcs, which is why AJ Brown is in a tier with CD Lamb for me, and Jalen Waddle, even though AJ Brown is of an older class, because he's just in his prime with that level of upside, and I expect it. Again, I think I can trade him for the same thing this time next year, if not better. And so he hits a similar value tier for me. Running backs aren't exactly a value proposition to me, and weren't in 2014 as well, so it's hard to measure. What I mean by that is I tend to, on average, I'll play a fantasy league where running backs are, if I need points, I go and trade for them at whatever value they have. I don't trade for them based on what their value is. Like, I don't go and look for running backs that are undervalued and then trade for them. Although they do exist, that's just not how I build my teams. This year, what I actually find with the slump, and a similar thing back in 2014, is there are running backs at significantly low value that are worth getting for their value, not because I need their points right now. I haven't executed a lot of trades, but one is like Elijah Moore for Aaron Jones. I recently did that, and I think I threw in like Kendrick Bourne or something straight up. Normally, I wouldn't have been doing that because I don't need his points right now. But I don't think I get that trade in season, even if Elijah Moore is a top 24 wide receiver and Aaron Jones is just doing regular Aaron Jones things. So yeah, I'm slightly more interested in running back, but it's not therefore I'm going and trading for Kenneth Walker and ETN. But I will look in my leagues to see who might be higher or lower on the running back position, which is unusual. This is essentially just trying to say I'm zigging while everyone's zagging, while also adding context that sometimes, like we were talking about with the earlier trades, that equals nothing happening because my league mates aren't where the ADP in the market are. They just are waiting for the season to come along and they'll be scoring points again. So there are changes, but it's primarily me being more interested in investigating my leagues to see if anyone's willing to trade me running backs at these crazily low values. But we also know back from 2017, the ultimate answer is go get the running backs that we know are coming in. And that's why we're so hyped on trading for the 101 at good value, because while I don't expect the 2017 class, I think a good young running back is going to be insanely exciting to have another good one. Breece Hall is another good way of trying to do it, but I think Bijan Robinson's a better prospect in a newer class without having had his injuries first year, so he's priority one. But then it's Breece Hall. I think he's interesting too. And then I'm buying the older running backs if in my leagues they're at these insanely low ADPs in their heads. So yeah, I can't do a one-to-one exactly, but there is a change. The most important thing I think, and I don't mean to keep going on about Jacob's question here, but this is, I think, one of the more interesting shows I do every year. I don't know if I do it as a podcast or a video. I did it as a video last year, which is looking at the trends of the NFL and Dynasty, where we're at in the cycle, and then trying to guess at where we should kind of place our chips for this particular season. So using these cycles to make an individual decision on a year, which is kind of hinky. I've never really thought about doing that this year, but it kind of worked. And the rate of breakouts, like players we see finishing inside the top 5, top 12, and 24 for the first time, actually regresses year over year. I think I don't have enough data since I only have DLF ADP going back to 2014 to guess, but we tried it this year and it kind of worked out. And the trends we expected to come down in that last year, we had an inordinate number of young breakouts at wide receiver. This year, it didn't at wide receiver because we also got Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, but that was less, to be fair. And then Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle both hit in their rookie year inside the top 12. But the trends at running back whether they break out or return, as in a player has been in the top 12 again and comes back after taking at least 1 year off and being inside the top 12. At wide receiver, at tight end and running back did seem to regress this year. And I think that video actually turned out to be pretty actionable for this season. So that is actually how my process has mainly changed. I haven't got to that point in my research this off season. I haven't looked at the rate that happened last year exactly. But I do mean to go back to it and see what we should expect for this year, because it was pretty interesting. Like some of the changes at tight end was specifically interesting. That we should expect less breakouts, and we definitely got less this year. But then when you compare that with like when most breakouts happen, like the career year of players, that's also really interesting data to start incorporating when you can use this yearly type of process. But I'm going off on one here. This is getting ready for the season talk. I'm not quite there yet, but that's the main way my process has changed. It's not about positional value. It's about looking at NFL trends versus ADP trends and trying to guess where the market might be off because the NFL cycle is going in the opposite direction of the value cycle. It's like the live reaction to Evan Silva saying people expect exactly what they just saw to happen, and so we're trying to not. Like, everyone values wide receiver right now, and so we want to go to running back, but let's look at if we should expect that based on where NFL talent is coming from. And right now, while Bijan Robinson should Bijan Robinson, and while we should get a few running backs from this class. Just speculating, having not looked at the numbers yet, I don't think we're expecting a 2017 year. I think Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, I think these guys still have another year or two left in them before the NFL revamps the position on average, looking at the trends. And again, that's the main way my process has changed. It's not looking at the position, it's looking at the disparity between what ADP is expecting and what has happened in terms of when new NFL talent is coming in, or when new old talent is repeating, or in fact returning. We can actually see some trends in the returns as well. But anyway, sorry, I mean to go off on about that, but it's a pretty interesting question. Mr. Scampers, Amon-Ra Mondre Stevenson is a good Wheel of Fortune mashup. Actually, 100% accurate. Will Davis, who should I take at the 108 in a 12-team Superflex startup? I don't know. Send me a message on the clock. Let me see the draft board, preferably after the draft. But if right now I'm in a draft in a Superflex, I'm hoping to get Addison there. But again, if CJ Stroud or Bryce Young have fallen there, then I'm taking the quarterback. But I think it's Addison. You have a choice between Addison and Quentin Johnson. Personally, I lean towards Addison. If Gibbs is still there, though, you take him. I don't exactly have a big board, but I have a pretty good tier system live working in my head. Should I trade the pick, or what should I look to get in return? Either of these options are great. I would look for good trades, but if you don't find good trades, I would make the pick. That's my general rule. And what I actually want to do with my 108 this year is add something to it, and I want to get into that top tier. So I want to go get the 101. And if I can't, I want to get a top 4 pick, because that's where JSN on the quarterbacks are going. That's where I like to approach rookie drafts. I'm trying to add something to it and trying to move up. That's the way I approach rookie drafts in general. If you're looking to get out, because there's risk in rookie drafts every year, and we get things wrong every year. I love Addison, and then he doesn't hit. And like, I don't know, I should have been good. So there is value in just always trying to look for a good player instead of trying to make the rookie pick. Although I would say there's always more upside, points, and value from a rookie draft, which is why I play it that way. But you want to get out for the 108, straight up, like we were saying, Treylon Burks is an okay value tier. Deebo Samuel, if you just want a good player, you know is going to do, as long as he's healthy, something. This year, top 24 wide receiver. I think he's straight up a really interesting pick. Or you could, ultimately, the goal is to add enough that you can go get Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. Like, they're the gold standard of what to go get, unless it's Superflex, and then you're aiming for Mahomes. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. It depends where your league mates are at, what your team structure is. But that hopefully gives you some idea of what I'm trying to do with the 108 and where the value in all of those moves, depending on which direction is best for your team, would be. And Deebo Samuel straight up for the 108, or add something to it and try to go up to a higher tier in that draft. Loving the lettuce lecture, Pete? I'm going to assume lecture. I do take on a lectury air on occasion. I apologize. And the cardigan, Russ. The lettuce. I'm sure that's like slang. Is it money or something? And yeah, Russ always looks just fine. Thank you very much. Jacob Calloway, what SNES game is on the wall and why isn't it Super Mario World? I think he answered this earlier. It's a Batman and Robin game. I barely listen to Russ when he talks. I got to be honest with you. Mr. Scampus, right. Cam fell off after getting in a major car accident and a shoulder injury. Yeah, which seems less related to his rushing. And also, and again, I don't think any of the evidence is conclusive, but something I talked with Nate Plovit, I think it was on the podcast at the time. It was some tape grinder, and he was pointing out something I wouldn't be able to identify, that people rush differently as well as they receive differently, in the sense that like Cam Newton was a punishing rusher, whereas someone like Aaron Rodgers is a different kind of runner. Well, he's not the best example of rushing quarterback, but Jalen Hurts and Russell Wilson, none of these guys have the same probably risk reward in terms of their rushing. But I always default to what players have said about passing versus rushing at the quarterback position. And Aaron Rodgers is actually, no matter what you think of him right now, one of my go-tos on it, which he points out when he's passing, he always tries to get his feet off the ground when he's throwing the ball downfield, because it takes away the risk from his knees. And he also says he feels like he's more at risk when he's trying to pass because his eyes are downfield, not necessarily around him. Whereas when you're running, you're paying attention. You can almost choose how you get hit a lot more than when you're passing and you're the one getting hit like a truck instead of engaging in a hit from a defender. Now, there's risks in both, I assume. Like you can get side swiped without knowing it when you're actively trying to rush the ball. I'm sure it's very complicated and a nerd like me wouldn't understand. But there's a lot that goes into it. And especially without any conclusion from like the experts in health concerns and risk, and the fact that players seem to think that rushing can at least be a significant danger compared to rushing, to me means I think we're peering at eggshells. But if you watch a player and you think that guy has a rushing style that's just more dangerous, I can't disagree with you. I could easily see how that would be possible. But that's an individual. That's not look at the history. That's I look at this player or I look at this player's stats or however you do it, and there is extra risk here, which I'd be interested to hear about that. But I can't say it as a group, like rushing more dangerous than passing or vice versa. I hope everything's okay for us. Mike, 14 team, 1 QB, PPR, Higgins or the 103, Chig and the 207. 1 QB, Higgins or the 103. That's what this relates to me. Not that I want to undervalue the 107, the 207 or Chig. I think it's just Higgins in a one quarterback. That 103 is probably Gibbs for me. So you could break the tie to the running back if you want. Because it's Bijan Robinson, JSN. Then you got a choice between Gibbs or Addison for me right now. But you could easily have your QB a different ranking set. I think it's just Higgins. I'll take the certainty of that young top 12 dynasty wide receiver. He should be top 12. And since Russ isn't here, I'll just wait it that direction anyway. PPR, excuse my typo. You're good, man. Have you seen my Twitter feed? Like, I don't blame anyone for typos. At this point, all my competing team, all my teams are competing, but I'm acquiring Derrick Henry everywhere and letting him die on my roster. I think that's a fine approach. Again, to go back to the question on what are you doing with running back this year, like on teams where I'm clearly built to win, I really want to try and take advantage of the fact that running back is less. And if Derrick Henry is the one that you're finding value on, to do that. But it doesn't have to be. Like, I try not to get locked into players, although I do all the time. Like, I just want Derrick Henry, but just find the one that is getting you that value. And yeah, especially on winning teams, that's definitely the way to approach it. Again, more teams are building than they're competing as a rule, but also anything can happen if you just get your butt to the playoffs. And that's a solid way to play Dynasty. So I like the energy, man. Try and win. Everything okay, Russ?
Yeah, she has a migraine, so I took care of her, took care of my effing kids are still awake. There's going to be monsters in the morning, so I had to just calm some shit down. But, whew.
Understood. We'll try and make it quick, I'm sure. If you have to go, I understand.
No, like she's in a dark room with no one bothering her, so me being there with my phone on would just be obnoxious, so it's probably for the best.
Fair enough. Ryan Harvey is saying that he's trying to acquire Derrick Henry everywhere. He knows he's going to just end on his roster, but he's got competing teams, and so he wants to go out and get him. And I was saying that's solid. Yeah, if you're on a competing team, go get those running backs cheaper than they.
Especially if you're getting him for a second.
Like I would start with CMC and work backwards.
Like I would get him even if I'm not competing, because once he starts scoring points, you'll get a better second.
And to be fair, Ryan, getting for a second rounder does not seem right.
That is
which is why you would do it.
You should not be getting him that cheap. So good for you that you are.
But again, to be fair, if you're they're not going to get a first off anyone else, so you're probably the only one. But and that's what I was saying about the person asking me about what to do with running back. Like, few people want to invest in it at this time of year, and if you're in that league, like that's the only offer they're gonna get, and they're building, and they got no use for Derrick Henry, and they might just be like, "I've got no patience," and get him for a second. Awesome. 10 teams do flex the 101 or the 104 Swift and the 24 first. Ooh, that's difficult.
I'll take that package.
You're getting the value, and especially with Swift thrown in there, 3 firsts plus.
Yeah, and only going back to the 104, it's great because that's a quarterback or JSN or whoever you want in there. Like I like that a lot. Plus,
that's a great trade.
Yeah, right now for the price he's at, and like he's not super overvalued in this, and it's still enough. I like
that's actually plenty. The more I think about it, I'm like, I want Bijan, but that's you need to get out of that. Yeah, it's gonna suck. Well, no, actually, it's gonna rock watching Bijan Robinson run. It's gonna be fun, but there'll be a little. Oh no.
Yeah, you're gonna feel that no matter how much. If you trade him away, you're gonna feel that. Yeah.
Then you get to come shout at us for making you take that trade because you can blame us.
Oh yeah, yell at Peter.
You're like, he's awesome, and you said trade him, and I'll be like, yeah, no, it's like I don't know, I don't tell you. JB in a 10-team. In start 10 with 28 roster spots, Samaje Perine or Hunter Renfrow and 3/4.
Okay, like I love answering trade questions. Seriously, I love it. Like, do you need to ask this one? Who cares? Whatever makes you happy.
I break ties to running back, especially in depth. There you go.
Neither of these are going to win you your league. I loved the idea of Hunter Renfrow a little more before they brought Jacoby Myers in, but like. There's still not that many people to catch the ball besides Devontae Adams, so maybe Renfro's a thing. I don't know.
I think in a 28 spot, it's just you should roster more running backs on the back of your.
Yeah,
it's just that.
Whichever one makes you happier. Like that. Like this.
Value
of this doesn't matter.
To be fair, I think the answer is running back depth, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, roster the guy you prefer. Cambo 8-12. 10 teams who flex start 9, the 101 or AJ Brown and a 25 first. That's pretty close. I think I'd take
the 101. Like if there was a 24, I might even change. But like, I think this is 25. I just don't care. Like I still want the 101 at that point.
See, if it was someone else in the AJ, and I love AJ Brown, especially in that tier, because if someone's got Dynasty Brain, he's easy to trade for than CD or Jalen Waddle, and that's just stupid. I'm allowed to say stupid. But here's the thing, a running back in his first year popping off and revitalizing the position all by himself is not worth less than the wide receiver position because of career arcs and age. Like, no one cares. So I think Bijan Robinson has actually got the value edge there again. So yeah. It sucks though, because AJ Brown's awesome. And good value right now, but it's Bijan Robinson. T really owns Russ, a new signed number 5. Just thank you, Samson. You get it.
Dude,
his biggest fan,
does not follow me, and I don't follow him. I have no idea who this guy is, but someone actually saw my tweet somehow and literally says, I don't know who this dude is, but T owes him in New Jersey. And I was just like, I don't know who you are, dude, but thank you, man. Oh, no, his exact words were, don't know this dude, but can we please update his setup? Update his setup. And like he tagged T Higgins in it. Like, not gonna lie, even if T's nice. like that, I'm gonna geek the fuck out. Or like, be really embarrassed.
If you were a very cute child, I think something in it for T Higgins to that looks good and stuff, but just helping out another middle-aged man. I mean,
yeah, like exactly. Like Or he's going to be super creeped out that a 40-year-old dude has this many pictures of him on his wall.
Is that a problem? Should I call someone? Thoughts on CD's value after the trade for Cooks? I don't think it affects.
Does not change it whatsoever. Actually, you know what? I think it's better.
Players. Yeah, that's actually where it's going to go.
Because first of all, yes,
CD good offense. Was clearly overloaded last year, even though he's really good, really young, and can definitely own that volume, which everyone said he couldn't, except for me, and I'm right. Yeah, I think Cooks helps. He moves the ball down the field more often, more scoring opportunities. They're going to get on great. There is no one more experienced at getting to know and being friendly with new teammates than Brandon Cooks, let's face it.
Yeah, and this kind of squashes they're going to go get Steph Diggs thing.
And even
I was glad when I saw they brought in Cooks.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't hate him. I mean, Waddle and Hill are fine. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are fine. Great, in fact. Yeah. Mr. Scampers, I love that your deep analysis of your change of process pairing ADP values and NFL positional cycles was followed up by a serious dumb joke by a cat avatar. Also, lettuce equals hair. Oh, okay.
Oh, your hair. Yeah, my cardigan in your hair. Yeah.
That's just my life, man. It's fun. But also, I thought it was pretty good. Samson, the joke. Samson, how do you feel about buying wide receivers who are supposedly getting shipped like Hopkins? Generally, after players get traded, they raise in value like Elijah Moore.
Did Elijah Moore really raise in
That's it in theory, and if it happens in your leagues, I sell hopes and dreams for value and points, as a rule. But I would say, like, after Hopkins was traded the first time, I actually did a deep dive into the few times we'd seen, like, a prime wide receiver go to another team like that, which is basically Odell Beckham, but there have been a few other times. They basically remain who they were. We can expect a slight dip the first year at least, but then mostly it rebounds. They stay in and around their same volume threshold and their same performance output. Where most number one wide receivers haven't been traded in their prime, there's always did they take the black ball out the bag that year and they would have faded anyway? So there's a little noise in it, but mostly we should expect to be in who they are. Now, Hopkins is very much in that. I realize not everyone will know that reference. Adam Harstead wrote an article about the mortuary table. Instead of using age curves, he thinks about a mortuary rate where players take a ball out of bag every year, and if it's a black ball, they fall off or get injured. And there's an odds bet in the number of black balls versus the number of white balls in a bag. It's a whole article. You should go read it. It's awesome. But that's a way to think about aging and the likelihood of players actually producing. It's not whether they fall off. It's just whether they suffer an injury that year is actually a better way to think about it.
And it's
because players don't see a significant decline over time. The age curve is actually a lie. It's a fallacy of the average, actually. But Adam uses smarter words. That's just something I made up to describe it. And players don't fall off gradually. They tend to dive. They just stop at some point, and there's no real way of knowing exactly when for any individual player.
Exactly.
Hopkins
you don't really know.
Gets increasingly likely of drawing that black ball out the bag. But if he doesn't, then he's DeAndre Hopkins. And so that's the risk you're taking. And Adam's got a whole formula in there for how you can calculate expected number of years left. And I think Adams would be, Hopkins is probably like 0.7 at this point. But still, if that 0.7 happens this year at his value, be really hopeful. And I think I hit all the notes there, what to expect when a player gets traded. And also the fact that some of those players like Hopkins have got age concerns, and that's the way I deal with them. Players on good career arcs, not players at good ages, is kind of a mantra, a saying, something I'm not famous, but I often say to the few people that will listen to me. And that's the way I treat it. With Elijah Moore, there are serious questions because while he's on a good career arc, we haven't really proven he's not just young, rather than on a good career path, because that last year was weird. There's enough hope that if you're getting it for less than a mid-second, like I want to ride that train. But like I just said, I traded him for a running back on a team that I think is more built for points this year because there's a lot of risk in that. And I don't think his upside meets the top 12, even if he is on a good career path. And yeah, again, broadly, if players go up for something that's narrative-based, since I don't expect a lot of change from one team to another, I think players show us who they are, and we just should take that as a default until we see something different. And then I will sell the hopes and dreams. Always sell hopes and dreams. They're free, and people love them. It's like It's like selling pet rocks, 10 team Superflex PPR. What would you give up to get Garrett Wilson? I'm not as high on Garrett Wilson as Zach, but that's saying nothing. To be fair, he's a top 12 Dynasty wide receiver right now. So pretty much there is no trade you could say is too insane unless you could get Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson for that trade. Then it's a good trade. That seemed like a good way of going about it. It's like 3 first-round picks-ish because Chase and Jefferson are that plus somehow.
A good example trade right now is tough because you have to pay like he is Jefferson or Chase just because he's younger than they are.
And again, and that's part of what I was saying about changing my process. I'm not targeting Garrett Wilson, but it's if you want to play Dynasty that way, you can, but you're going to be paying a premium. Just expect to play like too much. That's it. But that's why Drake London is more interesting. Sleepers suck, but value is real, and Drake London probably should be valued closer to them, and he's slightly lower. And if in your league the ADP and the ranks reflect that, if your league reflects the ADP right now, then Drake London's a better person to go get for a similar expectation with similar positive rookie year and so on and so forth. But if it's just I want Garrett Wilson, sure. There's many players away playing Dynasty, and you should be like the 104, the 109, and a 24 first. Like that's a lot, and that's
Garrett
kind
Wilson
of Garrett Wilson.
That's what it's going to take. It's going to be something ridiculous.
You have to give them something they're excited about to get something you're excited about. Puff pass kick. Have you two scouted? Never. The 23 QBs at all? I do have a quarterback model, and it has pretty good R-squared score. But I have given up trying to, not because it's impossible. It's just like I think there's deeper analysis that's hitting fairly well that I'm not going to be able to replicate or don't have the time to figure out. I refer you to Travis May. Honestly, he's got all the goods behind the stats. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, there's really not a lot of questions. Top 12 upside, not top 5, but really solid Trevor Lawrence type quarterback prospects. Anthony Richardson is just, you can invest any hopes you want in him because he is a seriously talented athlete and a seriously talented rusher. We saw him put that down in stats, not on tape. I don't do that. If he can pass, which we have no evidence for whether he can or can't, to be honest, he wasn't throwing enough to know, then the upside is the moon. And in fantasy, that's what matters, points, as Zach would want me to point out. I don't think he'd care, actually. But for my process, anything that we look at it as profile is not going to compare well to Jalen Hurts. It's not going to compare well to Lamar Jackson. It might compare somewhat to Josh Allen, but as Travis May pointed out, not really. Like Josh Allen was below average in terms of passing efficiency, age-adjusted, and all the fancy adjustments they do. And Anthony Richardson was like 4 quantum leagues below that. Like there's really never been a passer, as far as his stats go, that is that bad. Now, the counter argument to that, as Travis wantonly admit, is the team didn't pass and he wasn't asked to pass. But that's also not a positive thing. He has to pick up this highly complex thing that very few people can do at that level. All of a sudden, while thrown into the NFL, where expectation is immediate, no matter what they say about development. Josh Allen is an exception. There's not a lot of teams willing to put that down. So you're playing a narrative game. Will this team that drafted him here be able to wait for him to develop? Can he develop that? I hope so. And if he does, the sky's the moon. But in terms of what he did, there's no real is there any way of knowing I can develop an NFL exceptional passing skill set? No. The answer is no. More likely than not, which is where Anthony Richardson is. But he's got
I think you're sneaky athletic.
Than me. He's got a higher expectation than me, but that's literally saying nothing. Let's face it. So that's where we're at. I have to tell you that he's not likely, but also that we don't have anything that can help us decide how likely he is, because the team honestly wasn't asking him to and wasn't even passing much when he was passing. But then the questions of, well, that means he has to learn freaking everything at an NFL level immediately. A lot of questions, but the upside is the moon. That's the best I can do at quarterback. As far as Will Levis, I also recommend the Dynasty Hootenanny, which I know you know about, Puff Pass Kick, but they recently did the tight end and quarterback episode. It's live on YouTube. Now it's just sitting on YouTube, having been live, but also it's a podcast. Look up the Dynasty Dummies. You get 3 tape evaluations of every prospect they run through. Will Levis was a really interesting one to listen to because I kind of get it, even though I don't do a lot of quarterback profiling. Like, yeah, there's a lot of good comparable factors in his overall statistical profile. But there's clearly warts. He's not Stroud. He's not young. He doesn't easily measure up that high. But again, you've got Daniel Jones who developed. You've got Josh Allen who developed. You still need a little bit of development, but it's actually within a reasonable margin. Not the ceiling of Anthony Richardson if he could do it, though. Hendon Hooker looks like a prospect to us. I can't say he had a terrible career or anything. He's really old, which I can't hold him against him because I'm older than all of these guys put together, I think. And he did a pretty decent job of being a quarterback in college. Nothing really stands out or negatively or positively. He just did he did quarterback in college and was pretty good at it. But again, I don't know a lot of quarterback evaluations, so that's all really off. I really recommend listening to those 3 guys who've done it regularly. Again, I'm not a tape guy, but they have a solid process they've consistently worked on. I don't know quarterback. That's what I'm telling you. It's not that they've got you should use tape. It's just outside of Travis, I don't know many data people who have a pretty good line on how the statistics work and where to get an edge on it. Anyway, I shouldn't talk about that so long. I want to go to bed at some point. Gavin Ferguson, 12 team Superflex start 10. Give Russ and Cousins, get the 104. Lawrence and Lamar. Yes.
Wait. Oh, wait. No, hold on. Give Russ and Cousins to get the 104 because he has Lawrence and Lamar at QB.
Oh. I was going to say, that's ridiculous. No. It's like you just killed your league, dude. Do it.
No. No. I'd hold on to the 2 quarterbacks, even though the value is probably the 104. But like, I don't. Oh, because you're saying you have so many quarterbacks, you can do that.
Yeah. I mean, the 104 you're in the right tier to get, but it should cost one of them a second. You know, it shouldn't cost both of them.
I mean, if you want to, like, especially like if you are.
No,
like if you're
not this
before and re-rolling for like Richardson, I guess. If you're taking the 104 because you just want to go get JSN or Gibbs or whatever, screw it, go do it. Why not?
You're either drafting another quarterback or you're getting JSN. So,
yeah, I get it. Like these are both guys that are late firsts, and you would give up 2 late firsts to go up to the 104. Like it's rough because it's 2 quarterbacks in a super flex league. But I don't care. Can't go take the 104. That's fine.
Gavin, the problem is here, I've got to expect you can get better trades to get into the draft early, but you know your league and this is a trade you found. And honestly, yeah, I mean, John Hogue would tear his hair out and go, so hard at me, but like it's fine. Those 2 are gonna score good points though, so realize you're making another team more competitive this year.
Yes,
like really competitive. And make your decision. But that's what it is. The value's fine, but it shouldn't be. And that team's going to be much harder to beat this year. But you'll get JSN on another quarterback, re-rolling on a younger quarterback to stock up your depth even further. Yeah, I get it. Honestly, I wouldn't do it unless I'm taking JSN. You're fine with that. Yeah, it's JSN or don't do that trade. Or Gibbs. No, it's JSN. Definitely. Last answer. Gibbs. No, JSN. Definitely. And I got to keep doing this. And it's JSN. Mr. Scampers, Russ would T. Giggins out.
I would.
I think that's a phrase we should
T.
start
Giggins.
using.
I would do it.
He's T. Gigginsing.
Yeah, they're actually all versions of the same card. Yeah, and I still got a couple. Well, there's a lot more in this actual set, but they get really effing expensive. So I'm just going to go to the shelf and I'm done because this was already far too much fucking money. But it looks really fucking cool.
Find someone who loves you like Russ loves T. Higgins. That's my advice. Samson, T is active on social, and I can see him being cool about sending a jersey.
Like Peter said, not to a 40-year-old dude. No,
he might. I'm sure it does. You don't have to be a decent dude to do that. There's literally no expectation. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like the dude,
but he is. I
give away a jersey to every fan.
Good. Like I like him. as a person. So
he's got a lot of fans. He would run out of money real quick if he tried to give a jersey to everyone.
That man. But like, no, he's not doing no.
Even an NFL star would give out money real quick if you tried to hand out a jersey to literally every fan. But yeah, I mean, obviously it'd be awesome. But yeah,
there was one. I can't remember what team did it where a rookie changed his number like before the season started. I think it was, and they. Oh no. Or was it like the Eagles? No, because the Eagles took Vic. So they weren't like... There was a team that like took in jerseys and gave new ones. I can't remember what the situation was. Whether it was a number change or if it was... I can't remember what it was. Or like if it was like aspect jerseys or something. Like someone did something where they took jerseys and gave new ones. But no, teams aren't going to do that. People aren't going to do that. Players are not going to do that.
That's an aspect to being a player I can't get my head around. Can you imagine, like, you see a post, you see you on Twitter, and you're like, send him a jersey, and then that has ramifications, and everyone's like, why don't I get a free jersey? And having to, just being a 20-year-old kid who's highly skilled at a sport, having to make decisions about whether it's okay to give it. Like, Jesus, that's being a public figure must be weird as hell. Like, I was just trying to do a decent thing, and then all his other fans are mad because they didn't get it. Like, man, that'd be weird. Maybe they wouldn't. I literally don't know. I can't imagine trying to figure that out. You know? Just young kids, too. They're like basically trying to figure out. I don't know. Interesting thought. I thought. Would you trade the 108 for Miles Sanders? They said no, but the 110.
I wouldn't trade the 110 for Miles Sanders. And I really, really like Miles Sanders on the Panthers. But no, I would not. I wouldn't even trade the 110.
Didn't say whether it was super flex or not.
Don't matter.
But even on 1 QB, no.
1 QB, you're still probably talking RB4 or 5, which means like I would rather take A-Chain.
That's a good point. There's running backs there. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Like,
Gavin Ferguson. Dallas still has 20 mil in cap space. Good to know. And the price for Hopkins keeps getting lower and lower.
Well, his contract is the same regardless.
Isn't Hopkins at the place in his career where he's going to play where he wants to? I mean, unless he just wants to play and he only gets one offer. I think Dallas would be intriguing to him, though, to be fair. Dak and CD. There's a chance.
Yeah.
Isn't he in that period where he wants, I want to go get a ring?
He should. He deserves one. He's damn good.
Yeah, he definitely deserves it. Yes. No disagreement. 10-team Superflex. Chris Olave or the 105?
Chris Olave.
Mm-hmm. It's Olave. Sell hopes and dreams for points. Yes.
Yeah, he loved that phrase. That is a good phrase.
I am okay to be quoted on that. Send the haters my way. You're selling people's hopes and dreams. Or I'm selling them their hopes and dreams, to be fair. So it's not even wrong. Christian Watson on 11 or T. Higgins? Yes, T. Higgins. I'm not even...
The guy with the Clemson player in his Avi.
No poster over here. I'd still take T. Higgins. Ryan Harvey, what would you do with Keenan Allen on a competitive team? You hold him like you're doing with Derrick Henry.
No, what you say is exactly right. If you have him, you hold him. And if you can get him for a mid-late second, you absolutely do that.
Like you were doing with Derrick Henry, right? Like,
exactly.
Sometimes your league just insists you win, and you just go do that.
Yes.
I've never had it happen to me. Most of my league is insisting I stop playing and leave them alone. But I imagine it would be pretty cool to, them want you to win. Joel A, 12-team Superflex, 110 on Pickens. Ooh. Zach has said Pickens is one of trade. I want it 108, 109. I'm like,
yeah, but at this price, I might just take Pickens.
I think it's Pickens at the 110. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a little too low. I need something on the other side, just something.
If this was like my favorite right now, like I had to do it right now, I take Pickens. If I could wait until the draft and see who got drafted where, I might. But the answer might be different. But like if I had to do it now, I would take Pickens.
I think it's Pickens, or you're taking like your RB4, RB5 or so. And
then you're down to like the Zay Flowers, Jalen Hyatt, like level of guys. And at that point, I would rather just take Pickens.
A tight end, maybe. Yeah. Equinland, do you agree with Matt Warman? I mean, I don't have the kudos to disagree with them, so I guess having Zay Flowers as the highest ceiling for wide receivers in this draft.
I mean, love that Waldman.
Apparently, I do. because I disagree with Matt Waldman.
But like, I love that Matt Waldman just legitimately does not care about consensus wide receiver ranks. Like, I remember him having like Michael Gallup as his wide receiver 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, you go, dude. And Gallup showed out his rookie year, but it just didn't work out after that.
No, I respect the game. I try to do the same myself.
I
depends what he means. And I know that's a silly question because he's being pretty clear on it. JSN has a higher ceiling in this class, but if you're talking about the guy who might do his best Jamar Chase impression, yeah, I could see how, or Antonio Brown impression, I guess, size comparisons. Then yeah, I could see that. But no, like being not the way I think about it. JSN's ceiling is equal or better than everyone else's in this class, and anyone who has an equal ceiling might do it at a different role, but the fact that it's more alpha or more T-like or more Calvin Johnson-y does not make it higher to me. It's JSN. Outside of that, there's a solid tier. And honestly, I keep squinting at Zay Flowers' stats. I know there's more to it, but I can't eke it out of the numbers somehow. Because there's just too much noise. Smart people like Matt Waldman and others are liking it. And his production isn't bad. Like, this isn't a... who's this guy? Who's that guy he did it to once? He put him as a wide receiver 1, and then the draft happened, and he got taken in the 7th round or so.
Hakeem Butler.
Yeah. It's not a Hakeem Butler situation where I can show, like, this guy isn't earning volume. He's not performing well in the volume he gets. He's all... I mean, the tape's showing something different, but he doesn't have a reasonable expectation comparing to prospects. Zay Flowers isn't that. He's actually relatively productive in college. And my question on Zay Flowers is he was underproductive in his role, but impressively so, which is where we get into the weeds with what's wrong with Zay Flowers' stats, considering how he had to play the position, since most guys in his role have physical metrics that are just not his. And again, physical metrics don't matter in and of themselves, but it's fair to recognize the content. He was playing this high alpha outside wide receiver role more majoritively, much more so than JSN or Addison was, without that level of status. And that's fascinating. The thing is, we shouldn't really expect him to play that role in the NFL. I don't think the NFL is going to want to deploy him there. So it's whether he can do JSN things, I think, is a better question at that level. And it's really hard to make that adjustment since he wasn't playing that. He wasn't playing a high slot, low A-dot role. And no, he's unique. He's a pretty unique prospect, but he wasn't underproductive. He wasn't a bad producer. He actually did really well in his role, just not quite as well as the majority who go on to do success. But it's pretty clear he's a different type of cat playing that role. Even down to the fact that he's getting rushing stats much more consistently than most that play that role. He's doing it at a slightly lower conference, so he's over his conference average, but not the average of hits. But most of the hits are coming from better conferences. Does better mean their stats should be higher? Not always. And you get into the weeds real quick. He's not Hakeem Butler for me in my process. He's a really solid prospect. I guess maybe you could say he has the most upside at a different role, but no, he'd never jump JSN. I might be persuaded to put him in a tier with that core of Addison and Downs, and they have really decent expectations of at least hitting their floors, in my opinion. Quentin Johnson,
I think he belongs in that.
That's where he is mostly right now. I have a hard time justifying it with my... I'm still squinting. But, yeah, I could easily see him fitting in there. Yeah. Could it happen? For sure. That's why it's fun to be Matt Waldman, not care what other people think and say what you think, which I just did. Because, literally, like we were saying about Tony or Hartman, we have no way of actually knowing the future, what these individual players are capable of. We don't know them. We don't know what's in their hearts. But I can compare them to what people who did that did before they went on to do that. And in that regard, Zay Flowers looks okay, but not the most likely to hit that kind of ceiling. But solid, Again, it's trying to compare apples and oranges when you're talking about ranking ceilings. It's not really a thing I do. But Frank N., does Kareem Hunt still not have a job? I haven't thought about Kareem Hunt in a second. I don't realize
he wasn't even on a team anymore.
I thought he was still on the Browns. Is he not? Is there anywhere left he's relevant? Yeah, if he signs with a team, he can be relevant.
I've been but I don't think for a year or two already. I don't think so.
Nope. Still currently an unsigned free agent, apparently. Yeah, I wouldn't invest a lot of hopes and dreams in him that way. When he signs, I roster him now, hoping he signed to trade him.
Yeah, like I'm not dropping him from my Dynasty roster if I have him, but I don't want him.
To be fair, I'm not selling my pet rocks for any offer. Again, like people love buying their hopes and dreams. They're very personal, like pet rocks. You know? I don't know what I say sometimes. I just start moving my mouth and words come out. Okay, Warman, sorry. Yeah, I got it. Hopefully. Thanks, guys. Love the show. Thank you, Joel. I just decided not to answer Taylor's question, I guess. Would you trade Jameson Williams and the 110 for Cup? I mean,
I don't think so, because I feel like you shouldn't really have to.
Like I was gonna say that if I'm on a really competitive roster and this is the best I can get on Cup, I'm like, yeah, sure. That the Cooper Cup's got like the ultimate ceiling, but
like I would want to second back. Like if
I traded for him
right now, I want a second back. Like if it comes to season time, I would probably do it. But like right now, I don't feel good about it.
Yeah, I think you ask him to like add a 25 first. It's discounted to a second price because it's so far out. But like you need that. You're getting the old player. You're giving away a good young rookie in the second year, and a low-end first-round pick. You should get some more draft capital on the other side. I think. Peter's athletics sky is the moon. I think we all know that's not true. Unless you mean mooning people. That's probably my athletic ceiling.
He's done it. I've seen it.
Yeah, all the time. Constantly mooning. Puff Pass Kick. You blokes add sun sign to my midweek funk. I appreciate that, man. Samson, you guys have any bold predictions of any players this year? I don't know. I don't really know what's bold or not yet. I think Josh Downs should be a lot higher valued than he is.
No, I'm not really. It's usually much closer to the season before like I even start feeling strongly about anything. Like last year was easy because we had people felt so many questions about Hurts and Fields where I didn't feel those questions. So it's just like, okay, those guys are going to be good. Like that was nice and easy. But like I'll never, ever, ever live up to me saying Josh Allen's going to be the QB2 behind Patrick Mahomes next year when Josh Allen was bad and it worked. And I'm just like, all right, well, I'm out of this game now because I just did that.
I mean, like I said, I haven't gotten to the part of the year where I do that looking at the 2023 season, deciding what to expect, but I can do some simple ones. Like we should expect less from rookies this year because we should have expected that last year and it went on again. So just going to re-roll that one. We're getting too much out of rookies at the wide receiver position specifically. I think Bijan Robinson's going to finish as running back one, and it's not really a question. I think Christian McCaffrey, however, is still going to be the running back one overall. Again, assuming health. I think we've got a few more years left out of the 2017 and Saquon Barkley. We just rope him in there. Class being the top 12. We should expect more points from the position in general, though. So I think we're going to see an uptick of running back this year. Some turnover at tight end, if I remember the trends in general. George Kittle is going to be back in the top 5 this year. Is that bold? Probably not. Wasn't he in the top 5 last year?
Well, points per game, he pretty much always is.
Points per game, he was, yeah. Bold predictions. Rashad Bateman's going to be a top 24 wide receiver, and everyone's going to be really shocked. Just remember they shouldn't be, and anyone that's shocked, just stop listening to them, I guess. Last year, I called CeeDee Lamb being a top 12 wide receiver, which finally eventually was. He flirted with that a lot all season. I guess that's as bold as I got, but I got that one right. This year, I think we're going to we had less breakouts in the top 12 at wide receiver this year. And I think it's going to stay there. I think wide receivers are going to return or repeat much higher rate, especially with the lower expectation of rookies this year. I don't know if any of these are bold, but those are the best off the top of my head.
You're definitely thinking about it a lot more than I am, and a lot more than you made it seem like you were.
Okay. Cambo, 812. Who do you think has a better year in 2023, Dobbins or Javonte Williams?
Dobbins, because he'll be healthy.
Dobbins, because he's healthy. Yeah. Equity loan. He's talking to someone else, so I get to skip. Mr. Scampers, that's incredible. You need to have someone make a T. Higgins SNES
I really want to buy a 3D printer so bad, and I probably would do something stupid like that if I did buy a 3D printer.
They're really expensive, aren't they?
They're like, I mean, relatively, like, now they're like $200-300 when they used to be $2,000-3,000. So like, they're getting cheaper, but that's still not cheap.
You can buy an AI for $600. I just learned, by the way, your own personal AI that answers to you. Someone figured out how to employ it and install it on like a laptop or Mac or Windows laptop.
I've seen the Terminator, and I'm not doing that.
I mean, I've seen her, and it was pretty awesome. Like, I want a relationship with Scarlett Johansson's voice. So that sounds pretty cool.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, man, I just want to be the first in on the robot overlords. I need them to know I'm on their side, so I can sell out the human race and be fine.
Oh no, screw that! Just make my death quick and painless, please.
Gavin Ferguson, I probably trade back to get something on top of JSN or Gibbs for my 104, even if I couldn't. I'd at this point definitely take the first of the 3 tier 1 rookie QBs. Bad process to get JSN at 104. Well, we were assuming the 3 picks before him were quarterbacks. Bajon, 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah, like, no, don't get me wrong. Like, it is a little bit of bad process to take JSN at 4 if one of those quarterbacks will be there. Assuming draft works out the way we think it is. Yes, it is. But at a certain point, I just don't care. Like,
again, I will take the risks I'm going to take mostly in the rookie draft, though.
Yeah, like the answer is only JSN value, trade for need or want. But like, if it's me personally, I'm absolutely going to be drafting at least 1 or 2 JSN at the 104 because I traded up to the 104 to draft JSN before the Anthony Richardson hype.
I mean, not to throw out comps because they're entirely different players and it's an entirely different rookie class, but that exact same point was just as true, and it is perfectly true if you drafted Jamar Chase instead of the quarterback in his rookie draft. And honestly, it still worked out bad, but you got Jamar Chase. So,
like, literally, I mean, like Chase should have been the 101.
Yeah, technically you can't trade Chase for a quarterback, but can't you, really? You know,
like at least for like the first 2 years, you should have drafted Chase at the 101. Now, just now, and not even in every case, Fields and Lawrence are ahead of him. But
technically, it's bad process to take Bijan Robinson, and I'm not doing it. So, I mean, it is a risk. You're right, and bad process. But I think at some point you have to take on some risk, and I will choose to do it in rookie drafts more often if I'm going to take it. I mean, not that I don't take other types of risk. But, you know, risk management, not avoiding risk. You just try and manage the risks that you take. That's how I try and play anyway. Dom did a startup about 2 to 3 weeks ago and was offered Addison for a 25 first.
Addison.
We're in a 1 QB, 4 PPR league. Is he worth it? Yeah, I mean, he's worth like a top 8 even in Superflex rookie pick this year, and 25 picks should be worth less, and that's a random 25. So yeah,
he's still in that group where I would rather draft him than trade for a 24 first. So definitely taking him over 25 first.
And Cowboys got Texans to pay part of their Cooks contract. I really don't understand NFL money. It's so wild.
I know.
And Hopkins said he would restructure. Yeah.
Okay. Because this is what I was saying. Like, money, his contract is what it is. I didn't play into the idea or didn't think of the idea that he would restructure. So that's fair.
And that probably does mean he's interested in going there, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like, if he's willing to do something to make it happen. Yeah. Rondell Moore all day. No, but yeah, seriously, I would. Rondell Moore's an interesting value. There's not a lot of high expectation. Like, I'd rather trade for Rondell Moore than Wandale Robinson. A question we got earlier. Like, that's the kind of player I'm like, I'm probably targeting that guy.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm not targeting Wandale. Again, you don't have CeeDee Lamb or AJ Brown expectations, or even Jarvis Landry, but I think he'd be a top 24 wide receiver this year. Or at some point. Tyler. Sorry, I know this is a redraft question. Perfectly fine.
We just like talking football.
No, seriously, ask any question you want, man. We appreciate you being there. We're primarily dynasty players, but that means we play a lot of redraft. To be fair, I'll play a lot of redraft to get here. But you guys are the only ones that answer questions. So my question is, what is your thoughts on Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook? Good question.
I'm worried about Dalvin. like he looked like he was slowing down, and the fact that if Alexander Madison was just going to straight up be a backup, they wouldn't have kept him there. So
is it PPR league, Tyler? I'm going to assume that.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm asking. It's not like Derrick Henry was catching enough to make me not worry about that. Like I'm worried about Dalvin Cook the player. I'm not worried about Derrick Henry the player.
Dalvin Cook is currently ranked for 2023 rankings by Fantasy Pros. Just again, if you don't like Fantasy Pros, choose your default redraft guy. But I think they're as decent as anyone else anyway. Dalvin Cook is running back 15. Derrick Henry is running back 7. And, since we use ADP as a synonym, I think he can do a similar thing with redraft. In fact, Adam Harstad's got a strong process of using this as an expectation for points and Dynasty as an expectation of value and see where the differences are. And it's actually really interesting, but you're just talking redraft.
He says it is PPR.
I think those should be your expectations. Derrick Henry is running back 7, which is just inside the second tier of difference maker. It's not that top 5 at running back. But like he's going to matter on a weekly basis, but he does have to put up most of that through his legs.
Like I would say, like in a redraft league, I would draft Derrick Henry in the 2nd versus Dalvin Cook in the 4th. Like I would rather spend the little extra to get Derrick Henry on my team than saying the opportunity cost of waiting to go get Dalvin, because I think that the production will be that different.
Yeah, he's a tier 3 prospect. He's in there with Najee Harris, and as a dynasty degenerate, I'm like, no, Najee Harris. But honestly, I would have higher expectations for Najee than Dalvin Cook this year just because of injury, and that team really run through Justin Jefferson a little bit more now. But we forget, Dalvin Cook's like a tier 1 player in terms of his skill set and his skill on that skill set. Like, it's Bijan Robinson-esque in terms of what he's actually capable of doing. And again, I don't believe in the age curve. I think he's going to do it or not. He's going to fall off or he's not. But he isn't that risk.
If that's what you're, then I think he fell off because he looked slow last year. He did not look last year.
Okay. And so we should expect less than we've seen from before. Again, he's a top 15 running back. He's someone you're expecting to start, but you're not going to get weekly upside from him. And again, Fantasy Pros just does a decent job.
That is exactly.
Sometimes we make things harder.
So yeah,
and where we're always trying to look for edges and different things. And there's value in doing that. Don't get me wrong. It's not just ADP is good enough. But as far as setting expectations, like redrafters are really good at this point. And their rankings and their ADP is fairly consistently good. So it does set a reasonable expectation if you don't have 15 hours to build a model or game speak or a game out coach interplays. I think that's a fine expectation. Derrick Henry top 7, Dalvin Cook top 15. And thanks, Tyler. And I'm sorry no one else will answer your question. Tell them I said stop being
screw those guys or girls, whoever's not answering your questions.
Samson, glad I could catch you guys for a bit. Appreciate the content as always. Before I go, Gabe Davis or a bucket of chicken wings? Samson, I knew you were my type of guy. I will take the chicken wings. Yeah.
As long as they're
fine wide receiver 3.
As long as they're not honey barbecue. I like honey. I like barbecue. I don't like honey barbecue. As long as they're not honey barbecue, I'll take the chicken wings.
Minnesota are a threat to draft a running back this year. I mean, I guess everyone is. In the 3rd, 4th round, they can find a pretty decent running back this year.
It's a possibility.
Yeah. Sorry, just something. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, especially like you said, everyone kind of is.
Bateman top 24 definitely is bold. Oh, good. Cool. Then
there you go.
Everyone else is stupid for not thinking that.
Damn straight.
I really wish he could get more people into auction drafts.
It's so hard. It's so complicated. There's so much that goes into it. It's fun.
I'll auction with him if he bothers to ever do that.
It's fun. I'm not great at it. I'm not great at drafting either, but.
And yet here we are. For Dynasty, literally you have the opportunity to get to GST anyone without looking. Get anyone, you just buy them.
Yeah, but I don't care. Yeah. If you draft it right, you can draft anyone the heck you want to.
You're a really strong trader, kind of.
What
that misses though in auctions is that you can only get some. Like the idea you're going to get 8 top studs is actually less likely. In an auction, you have to hope to leave with 3 and immensely higher values, to be honest with you, because of the value curve. But anyway, I've only dabbled in auctions. I'm not going to pretend I know. PPR,
like in a draft,
Tyler, I assume that.
In a draft, I found a way to trade up to the 101 and the 103, and I still had picks in the 4th. Like, if you are persistent and good enough in an active enough league, you can do anything in a draft that you really want. Also,
Madison got a chunk of change too. Madison's
hey, scampers! You said no more comments. Bad scampers.
Funny. Gavin Ferguson, Charbonnet is your running back 3, right? He's my running back 4.
You have a 4. I have a 3.
Everyone has him 3. I wanted to be different. That's the only reason. No, I really like that.
We know.
Non-rookie running backs, yeah.
I mean, it's pretty far down.
12 team Superflex PPR 0.5 tight end premium. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would be your level of confidence going into the season with Njoku as your tight end? 5. Like, I think he's going to be fine.
I mean, I'm a little lower than that, but I just want him to be good. I liked him coming in, so it would make me happy, but like, I wouldn't feel confident about it.
Yeah, I don't think you got good.
Like, I'm hitting at most a 4 because like I'm not confident about it, which means I have to go below 5. But
yeah, kind of 9 to 15.
I don't feel bad seeing him there. I just don't feel good that he's going to score well every week, even though that's a lot of tight ends.
I think you could trade him for Darren Waller plus, but apparently not, because last week you were telling me no, Darren Waller's really high value than that.
I mean, that's me. I'm in on Waller.
All right. At least. Can we count on Pittman to get a value bump once he gets a new quarterback?
No,
I mean, narrative-wise, the league quickly turns on when things like that happen. Yes. I think what you have to bet on in most leagues is that Pittman's going to be a top 24 wide receiver. Really did show a ceiling through a stretch last year. But I think that's what we should expect. And in season, when he's doing that, he'll be easy to trade them right now. Pittman's value is really, it feels soft. When you look at his ADP and his ranks, like everyone knows, but no one's excited about it. He's like DJ Moore for the last couple of years. Everyone's like,
yes. Them two are always right next to each other. But like, I at least like I feel like Pittman getting an upgraded quarterback should be baked in because it's really hard for it to get worse than what it was last year.
I mean, it hasn't been great.
And even with Wentz, he was really good. It took a dying Matt Ryan to make Pittman look bad.
Yeah. Thoughts on top tier tight ends and 1.5 premium? Same. All premium does is make those top tier tight ends more competitive as flex options compared to wide receivers and running backs. It does relatively little to what I think of the position as a whole. It groups it and spreads it out further, if anything. Right now, if you can get Travis Kelce at a discount, like I went through my leagues, I want age discounts. Come on, the man's about to turn $1 million, and he's worth like a freaking fortune, like he should be. And instead, I'm targeting Kittle. But those guys are extremely important in leagues, let alone leagues where there is a premium and they have their extra benefit of being flex plays. So yeah, I actually more and more my league play seems to devolve in trying to get an edge of top flight quarterback production and tight end production. It's just harder and harder to compete for wide receiver values, and sleepers suck, So, and more I'm targeting Kittle, I'm targeting Hurts last year, and this year it'll probably be Lamar, and that's where I'm trying to gain some level of points per game edge of these gits who know everything about fantasy football and they're really hard to beat. Having more than one, I mean. Yeah, I literally stack up the position. Like, right now, it's not as strong as I want it. I'm trying to add Kittle. I'm trying to add Kelce. But most of my rosters have Pat Freiermuth, who I'm higher on than you guys, but at least we can accept he's young, he's good, he's in that middle class. And then I have, like, Goddard. And quite often Pitts, because I bought him at the end of last season in a few places. But that's an extreme case. But, like, I throw a lot of value into the tight end position these days. And
it's the right thing to do.
Anything close to the quarterback expectation in terms of number of years, but it's really hard to catch a Gronk, to catch a Graham, which is why I'm trying to get Kittle and Kelce, hoping people think they're about to fall off because they typically don't. Most years they don't, and they're really exceptional. It's very rare. That's why everyone went hard in the paint for Waller.
In a premium, especially, stud tight ends score very well compared to wide receivers and running backs that you would otherwise be playing in your flex spot. But also the unseen advantage is you taking away other people's positional advantage by not letting them have a good tight end. So it's like I have a team
stream in Dynasty, like legitimately hard to stream, even though the rosters are in 28 spots or whatever. Like smart leagues know what to do with their bench. You're not picking up that week's wide receiver streamer to play in Dynasty. It's just not happening. So
like I bring up a team where I won the league with only one quarterback in a Superflex league, and part of it there's two real reasons. One, because I have Chase and Jefferson, which just makes me smile, but it's also because I have Kelsey and Kittle. Oof. Like, yeah, the rest of my team not so great, but those four are good.
You don't make it too complicated. Tight end's pretty easy position to work out. You got Kelsey and Andrews, and then you got a pretty good middle tier or middle class, as I call them. And then you got a bunch of people who are going to be viable, going to be useful. It's where David and Njoku falls for me. You got a few wild cards like Waller. Exactly where do you put him? Yeah. Dallas Goedert seems to be in risk, according to Zach Reed, of being outdrafted. I think that's what he was saying on Twitter, but he's been there before with Zach Ertz. And again, just expecting something, not the world, but from Ertz and Austin Hooper, and just never quite letting them go until they're out of the league. And they do that too. Don't overthink it. Evan Ingram this year is actually a really good example of that tight end process, by the way. Like that's where all the values come from. Don't go all in on Albert Wilson and Cole Kmet when everyone's telling you they're a sleeper. If everyone's telling you a sleeper, they can't possibly be. And instead, it's just like, hey, Evan Ingram and Austin Hooper and Zach Ertz are still over here, like unwanted. It's not a hard position if you just have those three simple ideas, and then just greatly overvalue the Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce and George Kittle of the world, and everything's golden. And it's easier to find an advantage because you know exactly how to do it, exactly who to do it with. Darren Waller's occasionally happen. Sorry, is that RS? At that position, it's just honestly a really good position to try it at. That's why I'm falling to it, because no one's excited about it, and they should be. Having more than one's awesome. What are you defining as getting 8 studs? I wasn't. But like in Dynasty, one way of evaluating a roster is
like saying that there is a max. Like if you're getting studs, it's pretty much a studs and duds through in an auction, because there's a limit. Everyone has money, but I think it's probably better odds in a draft that you can manipulate a draft board through trading and end up with more picks in the top 50 players than you could probably pull off in an auction, just out of luck of other people having money and you having to have money tied up at a certain time. Like I don't dislike auctions, and after listening to John Bosch for an entire auction, so much goes into it. Like there's so much theory behind it all. It's terrifying and interesting and amazing and overcomplicated, and it's cool. I'm glad I have like 2-3 auction leagues and like 16-17 draft leagues.
But what I was talking about, one way of evaluating a dynasty roster is if the following year you've had 10 top 10 round picks in your startup, and if you still have 10 people that will be taking the top 10 rounds, then you pretty much did well in the draft, or at least you maintained. But another way of looking at it is you could have 3 top 3 round picks and no one else, so it's adjusted by the caliber, even though you don't have the quantity. And I was thinking of that in my head. But in auction drafts, it's much more slanted towards that, in that it's as if everyone's trying to trade up into the first round to get the difference makers rather than a depth of top 10 round players. And that's the way most rookie drafts tend to play out. Like Justin Jefferson isn't just worth a first round pick, just like T. Higgins or CeeDee Lamb is. He's worth 99% of someone's budget. So everyone is trying to trade up. It's a way it roughly equates in my head. But anyway, and again, like Russ was saying, it's really nuanced. In some auctions, they don't do that. And so it would be different. There's a lot to it. Well, there's a lot of ways of just finding differences between one league and another. Mr. Scamps says he's sorry you made him feel bad. I hate you for that, Russ. Costy, Because Peter, you see that lineup I put in the Discord. No shot in hell you get that in a snake. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing about auctions. You can actually create a better team. You can also create a worse team. It's very down to how that auction goes. Yeah, auctions are great. I'm not throwing it shade. I think auctions are awesome. Would you pay 24 second and Herbert for Sanders or Monty?
Khalil
Herbert. Second and Herbert for Sanders. Yes. Honestly, Herbert to Monty.
Care. Whatever makes you happy.
Second for Sanders. That seems solid.
Yeah, it's fair enough. Whatever, just take whatever makes you happy. Honestly, my order of caring, the 24 second would probably be on top. But
yeah, there's more. Hey, maybe this turns out to be not just that.
Yeah.
In it. But if you're just looking to have top 24 running backs, you're getting 2 versus maybe
having one. If you want to look and see running backs on your rosters, I think Sanders and Montgomery is the right way to go.
Yeah. Again, they're not running backs I target, but could be. I'd be more likely to send that second for Aaron Jones, for example. Thank you, Dave. Pittman showed his ceiling with Matt Ryan. No, but I think early down this wasn't for the first half of the season. He was in the top 12 consistently on volume basis. That was last year or the year before. I forget.
Year before,
but he has shown half a season of top 12 ceiling, which was something. He can perform with good play. Good night, Gavin. Thank you. Puff pass kick. Darren Waller will maybe give you 3 games this season.
6 games. I've been saying 6 games this whole time. I'm 6 games. 6.
Dude stubs his toe and is out for 4 weeks. To be fair, so am I. Daniel Bellinger had his eyeball ripped out of his socket and came back in a few weeks later. Why? Well, money, I guess.
His face broken and came back 2 weeks later. Good for you, man. I love me some Danny Belly.
Chase Jefferson or Hill or McCaffrey if you draw 2 to 5? 2.5 maybe?
No, I think he's talking about who would you take if you, in a redraft draft, who would you take from 2 to 5?
Okay.
If it's redraft, it's McCaffrey.
And it's PPR scoring.
It's McCaffrey. McCaffrey, Jefferson, Chase, Hill. Oh no, McCaffrey, Jefferson, Hill, Chase.
Yeah, I had this question last year. For the Scott Fishbowl, I do some of this breakdown, although the scoring tends to change in the Scott Fishbowl a lot. And I eventually said it on the redraft process if I'm taking McCaffrey, and I'm going to stick with that. Chase or Jefferson are both equally good picks and actually have less injury risk on a year-to-year basis. But McCaffrey's difference-making positional advantage is actually greater than Chase and Jefferson's. And ultimately in redraft, that's what I'm shooting for, that single season upside, and that's what I'm going for. So yeah, it's McCaffrey, then it's Chase Jefferson. Okay, which one's it? Well, I'll take the first one that's on the list. Hill, I guess he's not too far away, but he's not anywhere near the tier of those other 3 for me. But he's a top 12 wide receiver. It's pretty good. 2023 2.06 or Khalil Herbert. Even Steven, if you like Herbert a lot, that's fine. I'm probably rolling the dice on the second round pick, but again, that's where I take my risk.
If you want to take the shot
to take your risk in the draft, then don't do it.
If you don't think the Bears are going to draft someone and you think Herbert's going to be that guy, the 206 is not a risk.
It's fine.
But if you don't believe that, the 206 is a decent spot.
Costy, yeah, I guess it's more of a redraft thing. The Dynasty space is pretty much 97% snake startup strategy, so a hard barrier to break with the masses, probably.
See, I would be more interested in a redraft auction because you can't trade in a redraft startup draft, in a snake draft. But I still stick by, in a Dynasty startup, you could do whatever the heck you want if you want to.
Of course. There is a heavy auction home in Dynasty, though. Again, if you haven't checked out John Bosch or Bob Gilchrist, who work on a different platform, by the way, so it's not like we're pummeling sales. They're awesome. They talk about auction a lot in the Dynasty Trade Calculator podcast, or at least value a lot. And both of them are really big fans of auction leagues, actually because of everything you're talking about. So, You'll hear a lot about it, and they play in a lot of auctions. I imagine they share information about auctions that are taking place. Also, check out Scott Fisher's website. I know there's Dynasty auctions on there. What's that called? League Safe. 2 of the 5. Yeah, that would be my order in which I draft them. So McCaffrey, then Jefferson or Chase. Honestly, pick your flavor. Then Hill. Absolutely no problem, Tyler. Thanks for asking, man. And seriously,
what's that over there?
Your question.